Groceries are only bought in February.
I don't know myself.
And if you have a vehicle, it only moves in February.
It only consumes fuel in February.
If you have relatives, they are only alive and require assistance in February. If you have children, they require sustenance only in February.
No, chocolate factories only work in February.
Okay, you guys.
Oh, chocolate.
It is okay.
And the flower farms.
It is okay.
Usually January is so dry that flower farms are not, working very well. But in February, so the flower farms are now working. So
then, live every year, there is a December.
Yeah.
And without fail, that December is usually followed by January. It has never changed. And that January is the month where children go back to school. It has never changed. Anyway, clearly things happen in February that I'm unaware of.
Clearly. Are you well, though?
I'm very well. In fact, I'm really well. Thank you.
Super duper. And how about you, Eric Latif?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good. Did you have a good weekend?
Yes, I did.
Super.
I thank God.
Well done.
Welcome to February. So, if you were to reorganize your calendar such that the week starts on Monday and then it ends on Sunday, this is going to be a perfect month. First day of the month is a Monday. Last day of the month is a Sunday. An exact 4 weeks.
Okay. The calculated reverend is with us this morning.
I listened to what you were saying. Makes perfect sense. But there is a particular word I was hoping he would insert into the conversation. He said complete. I was waiting for the word holy.
Right.
Okay. Now you've inserted it. Welcome to the show, everybody, and we hope you had a lovely weekend. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room. We'll be here with you for the next 4 hours of mature, elevated conversations. So we have a lot to discuss. On the one hand, the CS for Education talks about, the way we are seeing things working out in schools, maybe it's time we start thinking about reintroduction of corporal punishment. And then what does the teachers' union go and do? It says, absolutely no way. So we want to understand exactly what the teachers would be saying no way about. So Wilson Sosion, the Secretary General of the still operating Kenya National Union of Teachers, will be speaking to us at some point in the show in the 8 o'clock hour. And then, so the country does not have a Chief Justice as we speak. And by the look of things, neither does it have a Deputy Chief Justice. Okay? Because a judge in Meru went and just looked at an application and said, all right, yeah, I see what you're saying. Okay. Yep. So, Justice Philomena Mbetamwelu should stop acting as Chief Justice, as Deputy Chief Justice, as Ombudsperson of the Judiciary, all those things that she's been doing, or sitting in the JSC, just stay at home, okay? Mama, stay at home. So we have seen the reaction left, right, and center. What does it mean? What does that mean? The lawyers who say, oh, this is a travesty on justice. And then those that say, look, if it slices one way on governors, it should slice the same way on the judiciary. Why not? So we'll be talking to a constitutional lawyer, Kamodo Eganjo, at 7 o'clock to have this conversation as well. Plus a lot more of other conversations. The president has been very, very, very busy this weekend. I think the president has met like about 20,000 people in just a span of what?
48 hours.
No, not 20. I mean, yes, just like that. 7,000 MCAs and leaders. It's just 5,000 youth leaders.
And just when we thought we had a clear understanding of what social distancing was all about.
Oh, we're not doing that anymore?
We are.
Oh, okay. Just
we are.
checking. I was
We are.
just trying to
We are.
remember.
We are.
Okay.
In our own way.
All right. Got it.
We just define it.
Redefining it.
Yes.
Just like in Myanmar, they are redefining democracy.
I know. This morning, as of this morning in Myanmar, the military has taken control of government and has detained all civilian leaders for, guess what, 1 year. And it looks like it's going to be quite sticky in terms of how this is going to work out.
It's a throwback to an earlier time, isn't it?
Absolutely. So as of this morning, all civilian leaders have been detained. Military has taken over government, and that's how it's. And they say they will be in this position for the next 1 year.
Bus.
So
We'll discuss that later. But what I found interesting is that they seem to feel that the military, not civil society, not opposition, military, that the elections were not conducted in a democratic manner.
Bus.
Just when you thought you had understood and heard everything.
There's power. The military in some of these countries is actually the civil society. But at the same time, as you're talking about all those things, I always keep going back into this population of the Rohingya who they have faced everything else. Everything that any human can face. But the world is quiet.
The world has been quiet.
As the people are actually kicked out of their country, taken to other countries, and those people in those other countries are like, but who are you guys? Yeah.
You know, this issue of focusing your attention, adverse attention on pockets of populations of your own country, China isn't exempt from it.
it's crazy. And I have a quick story to tell you guys. So Saturday morning at like 1 in the morning. So I'd taken my mom and my sister because, so they've left, right? So I'd taken my mom and my sister to the airport. So basically
1 in the morning?
Yes.
A.M.?
Yes.
Okay.
So
you were in Kenya?
Me, yes. This airport here, this one over
I'm
here.
just wondering because
there's a curfew.
No, it's all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't worry, we had all the documentation that we needed because their flight was there.
Wait, there's documentation for curfew?
No, if you have a flight and you're supposed to travel during that time, apparently you can with the right documentation. You can travel so long as you have your ticket and everything that you need.
And did you have a ticket?
Sorry?
Did you have a ticket?
No.
Did I have a
She
ticket?
was enabling agent, enabling so that yes. Please carry on.
I was in good stead. I was even in the company of those who are allowing people through. Anyway, so we're in the airport and seeing them off, whatever, and getting luggage through, and then there was a group of about 15 young girls.
15.
Yes.
15. Okay.
Standing in a corner, trying to get through. Because there's this whole, you have to do your COVID test, you have to show you your certification before you get in through. So they stood there for some time. They tried to get through. They didn't have the documentation they needed, and they were all really nervous. They didn't have any luggage. They had the biggest was the size of my bag here, and there was a gentleman who just would come every now 2 minutes, stand next to them, then walk away, make a phone call, come back. So they tried to get through the desk, didn't happen. So they were on this flight to Addis. And then one of them said, from Addis, then we are flying to Jeddah. That's all she knew. So the police who were at the entrance didn't let them in because they said, there's something going on here that we don't understand. So they were told to go stand away from the entrance of the airport, of the terminal. And so they stood there for some minutes looking very nervous. The man would come back, make a phone call, go stand, come back. And then I heard one of the girls say, because they're not too far from where we're standing, one of the girls saying that basically, they can't afford to go back. They had all the money that they had spent to make this trip, and the job was waiting for them. So then it became very clear to us that these girls were going to Jeddah for work, right? And they were really scared because they said, if we are caught, we don't know if our agent has everything that he needs to have us through. And if we don't go, we have nothing left here. As in, they were ready to go, they're done. So back and forth. And it was clear that then finally the folks at the door either were seen or talked to. And so these 15 girls, looking miserable as anything.
As sin.
I'm telling you, it was, tears came to my eyes because I thought, look, the oldest in that pack must have been 22. 22-year-old.
When 22 is considered to be old, there's a problem.
She was the oldest. In that pack, and they had no luggage. So finally, the supposedly agent man came to where they were, didn't even talk to them, just basically said, you can go. And he walked away, did not turn back once, left. And these girls then went through. Suddenly, they were allowed to pass.
So they just walked through the terminal and
they were gone like that. And I was like, my goodness. And the airport was basically empty.
Okay.
And I thought to myself, wow, this is how it happens. So here you have about 15, 20 girls gone, new job, supposedly a new life. They couldn't imagine not being allowed to travel on Saturday morning because they don't know. They would rather leave than stay.
Stick to all on this job.
Imagine. It was the craziest thing. And I was like, wow, this is how it happens. In droves. They don't know where they're going. They don't know what they're going to meet. But they had to get on that flight to Addis Ababa to get on to Jeddah. And it was strange. But it happens. And it's happening
Yep,
a lot.
it does happen actually quite a lot. And so you see the government's hand coming in and out in these things. Oh, we want to regulate these agents. We want to see how these agents operate. And then they pull their hands away again. You can clearly tell that overall there's some person with influence who runs the business.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? And clearly that's why the government is even unable to sort of put in some controls into this.
Yeah.
Because you'll hear of, there are those who've gone and they'll get good jobs and they'll be able to send money back home and they'll be able to even come back home. There are others who've gone and the story is completely the
Essentially,
opposite.
they've been sold into slavery.
That's it.
To me, that's what it looked like, huh? That's what it looked like. And this guy, obviously, gotten money in his pocket. He's fine. He's gone. He
He's
doesn't
done-
know
he's done
what
his job.
happens beyond these immigration
There's someone
for
else.
these girls. Yeah.
It's a
He's
conveyor
gotten his
belt.
money. He's finished. He's done.
It's a conveyor belt. He's handed them over to somebody else who
Yeah.
now takes over from there, and on they go. Anyway, this is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. At this point, let's take a break and see what's happening weather-wise. We'll come back and look at just a quick look at the numbers in terms of COVID-19, and then we look at the headlines. This is how you start your week, and this is how you start your morning, and we thank you very much for tuning in. Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook and Twitter, and www.spicefm.co.ke. The live stream is up. Let's see who is online shortly. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Did you know that knowing your HIV status is simple? You can visit your nearest health center where you will be tested for free, or you can test yourself using the self-kits sold at chemists for 500 shillings only. If you test HIV positive, don't fear, because there is medication that will allow you to live your normal life. You will also be counseled on how to live with HIV and fulfill your life goals or dreams. Knowing your HIV status as a parent is beneficial for yourself and your loved ones. Expectant mothers with HIV, did you know it's possible to deliver a healthy, uninfected baby? Visit a health facility near you during your antenatal visits to get proper information, advice, and treatment for HIV. HIV treatment can improve your overall health and can protect an unborn baby from contracting HIV before, during delivery, and after birth. We must not exclude or discriminate against our HIV-positive counterparts because living with the virus is not a curse. Follow the Ministry of Health's instructions to protect ourselves from HIV and also to protect ourselves from the coronavirus that causes COVID-19. Do you know your status? This message has been brought to you by the National AIDS Control Council.
It's a clear morning in Nairobi, 14 degrees. We're going to go to highs of 27 today and lows of 13. This Monday morning, it's clear in Nyeri at 9. Clear conditions throughout most of today. Highs of 24 and lows of 7. 11 degrees and clear conditions in Nakuru, going to highs of 30, coming back down to lows of 11. We're looking at 10 in Eldoret. Highs of 26 and lows of 11, looking like a dry day in Eldoret throughout, as in Kisumu, where it's clear at 20. Go to highs of 32 and lows of 20. It's mostly clear in Kakamega at 14 degrees, highs of 33 and lows of 15. Highs of 32 will be realized in Mombasa today. Clear conditions at 24, and that will be the low as well. It's partly cloudy in Malindi at 25, highs of 31. 20 degrees and clear conditions in Kampala, highs of 28 and lows of 18. And it's also clear in Dar es Salaam at 26, highs of 32 and lows of 25. It's raining in Johannesburg this morning at 17, highs of 23 and lows of 12. Looking at mostly clear conditions in Lagos at 28 degrees. We'll go to highs of 33 and lows of 25. Clear conditions in Kinshasa as well at 23, highs of 33, coming back down to lows of 23. And it's warm in Beijing today, warm being at 2 degrees, and sunny conditions. That'll be the high for today, though, coming down to lows of minus 12. Cloudy conditions in Paris at 9, highs of 11 and lows of 6. Looking at cloudy conditions in London as well at 4, highs of 7 and lows of 4. There's a winter storm in New York on Sunday night, minus 3 right now. This will just be the high for today, coming back down to lows of minus 5 with a chance of rain, turning things into sleet.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
Yeah! You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done
Okay,
right.
19 after 6.
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Isaiah Kibwaro is tuned in this morning from downtown Minneapolis. It's pretty cold where you are, isn't it? Sunday night there still. Leban Tanui Kapte tuned in from Nandi County. And Bogo is tuned in from Mombasa. He wishes you all a great week and a lovely new month. Capedo is listening, and this is via Honorable Reagan Hanskill Nyandinga Jr. Dorcas Kimother wishes you a happy new month, good people. Malindi, Tuko tuned. Waterman is also in Minneapolis. And he wants to know this morning what's going on between the president and immediate former governor of Nairobi, Mike Mbuvi Sonko, and et cetera, et cetera. Well, we'll get into that this morning. Moses Kashari is tuned in this morning, and he says, from Juja, your nation has a chief justice nor assistant chief justice. We have no governor in Nairobi. Sagana meeting adds the wage bill. Seriously, what's going on here? Cyprian Mwaura says,
BBI, okay. Don't worry.
Everything is all right.
Yes.
Cyprian Mwaura says, good morning, folks. New week, new challenges. Same God. Blessed day ahead. Benoit the philanthropist, first of all, is asking, what's your frequency in Ravine Baringo County? CT, that's County 0?
That particular question is a question I am not going to answer.
Oh, right. How are you going to do a girl like that?
But
this
I
morning?
can give you a hint that will help you. It falls between 0 and 47.
Oh, I thank you very much. That does help me a great deal.
Somewhere in between.
Lawrence Carrier is
So
tuned
our
from
frequency, just try the
sorry.
Nakuru frequency, 96.0. That should, okay, Ravine. Try the Eldoret frequency as well, 96.7.
You should land on something. Okay, and so Isaiah says good morning, as does Nyakwar Odhiambo. Good morning, everybody, and welcome.
Karibuni sana kila moto. All right, so before we hear today's proverb, where are we in terms of COVID?
Okay, so let's look at COVID numbers. We went through the roof, through the roof a few days ago, but now well over 100 million cases in the world, 103,523,190. We're still looking at high numbers coming out of Europe, almost at 27 million in the United States. Want to take a look quickly at Rwanda, which was receiving a lot of flack last week because of what's going on here and, you know, what they were or not allowed to do as per travel to the UK and such. Rwanda yesterday recorded 186 new cases and 3 new deaths. I mean, we're still within that average. 334 as of Saturday, and as of Saturday, and 255 as of the Friday before. Still, I mean, if you want to talk about the cases in Rwanda comparatively, it's nothing in terms of what's going on. So just looking at the analysis from an African point of view, that there's something else going on here that could have a little bit of a political twist to it in terms of why there's been this ban on travel from Rwanda to the UK. So this one is being watched.
Well, we'll follow it up.
Yeah. So looking at numbers around the world, we still continue to see the same thing. Vaccines are happening. A troubling story that came out of the CBS over the weekend. that a gentleman, a senator, a congressman actually in the US now has tested positive for COVID-19 after getting his second dose of the vaccine. So this one has everybody with their eyebrows up, saying what exactly is going on here. Again, questioning the efficacy of the Pfizer vaccine. Though it is one case, it still raised eyebrows in terms of what is this? But then also remembering that the vaccine is not a treatment, neither is it a cure. Neither are you 100% guaranteed of being protected from COVID. All right? There's so many things also that he could have still been within the window period when he got this vaccine. So he was already well on his way to infection. So, I mean, there's so many things. And I think it's important to look at all of the information having been presented before we make any judgments.
There will not cease to be a disconnect between the reasons, explanations given for the general populace of the globe to understand what this particular vaccine is all about, or what vaccine is all about, or even what the treatment for HIV was and still is. There is what is said, there is what the listeners understand. Now, the reason why you have a situation where it's now a rollout and almost everyone is destined to have it is it'll give you better information. Was it not only last week when we were talking about an injection that has now been approved by FDA, where people who are HIV positive will receive one injection per month?
Yeah.
Instead of that cocktail of drugs on a daily basis. How long has it taken for them to get to that injection? Yeah. It's early days yet for COVID. It's early days yet. It was 2 doses of the vaccine. Johnson & Johnson have come up with 1 dose. Efficacy, 60-ish%, 68, 65. Believe me, a time will come when you will hear of vaccines whose efficacy is in the 90s range. You'll hear it. And you'll hear of many, many vaccines where you only have 1 dose and that's it.
Yeah.
And in that process, you will hear of more and more variants of the COVID virus coming up. That is just the nature of this particular pandemic.
True.
And any other pandemic.
That's what we're looking at.
Okay.
But we will believe what suits us and we will understand what we think is appropriate to us. Yes.
Until we get it.
Yes.
Okay, let's hear today's proverb, City.
Right. Don't think there are no crocodiles just because the water is calm.
Don't think there are no crocodiles just because the water is calm.
Yes.
This could be similar to Siones Paka Manyeshewa.
No,
Simba.
Bro. If Parker gets nyeshewed,
It becomes a rat.
you might think ni panya.
Useione Simba amenyeshewa ukadhani
Ni paka. Yes.
All right. So let's take a look at the headlines. What do we have? Go.
Right. Let me just read something that might be a little uplifting. It's just that I don't believe it, but I will read it all the same. Economy tipped to grow by 5%.
That's good.
Global economists have marginally upgraded Kenya's economic growth outlook for this year citing debt relief and stronger capital expenditure. A consensus outlook from 15 global banks, consultancies, and think tanks show that Kenya's economy is likely to rebound from an estimated growth of 0.6% to 5%, and upwards revision from 4.9%.
So an upward revision from 4.9 to 5.
Yes.
They've made progress.
Why don't you believe it?
You don't think it's possible?
No, I think even 10% is possible, even 20% is possible.
This year?
This year, with the economic situation that we find ourselves in, the only thing that would make it possible, if there is a revolutionary change of heart, not mind here, because the heart will now determine the mind, of those who make decisions on our behalf to actually genuinely focus on the welfare of the Mwananchi as opposed to talking to us about our welfare and doing what on God's good earth they think is appropriate for themselves.
Okay.
If that happens,
Bas.
even 10% is possible.
Okay.
Yes.
So when the economy was growing, was it that the leaders were actually any different?
No, the economy, when it is growing, we don't really know. What we know is what is reported to us as the growth. And every time you ask for indications as to where that growth is, then you have a bit of a problem, because for growth to take place, several things as a layman must be happening. One, there must be increased economic activity.
Yep.
Now, the increased economic activity also presupposes that there will be a continuous and an increased movement of services, goods, and also money. But when you have an economy such as ours right now, where there are fewer people who are actually contributing to the national pot, and the number is not decreasing, the numbers of those who are able to participate is decreasing, you cannot then tell me that out of some miraculous thinking, there will be more activities. Even if there are, it will not produce the sort of results that you require for the economy to jump up. No, it won't.
Okay. Those bankers, maybe they have something else. They have a different explanation.
It is okay to talk about economic theory and explain. No, it's all right.
Yeah.
And also give us financial theories and talk about matrices. It's all right. But the question is, how does it translate into our day-to-day lives? You need to see it.
Do you feel it?
Yes.
All the years, by the way, whenever people have talked about, Kenya's economy is growing. Remember at some point in the Kibaki years, it went to above 7%.
Yes.
And I think at that point, Uhuru was the official leader of the opposition.
Yes.
A leader of the official opposition.
Yes.
And he asked, do you feel that growth that these guys are talking about, 7%? If the people in the mashinani are not feeling the growth, these are all stories and theories. He later became the finance minister. He later became the president. There's economic growth. Do you feel that growth?
Different question.
Back at you, sir. We don't feel the growth.
Okay, let's take a break. 6:30. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Let's see what's happening on the roads and then look at more headlines in the papers. Good morning.
Spice FM.
It's getting hot in here.
Oh, everybody steals. It's better a thief who brings something small back. And I say to myself, there's no better thief. A thief is a thief, period.
All those bribes, how much they're getting per year, how much inconvenience they're causing. As much as you call it a small case, it's worth it to be convicted.
The truth is, we are a tribal nation. Because if we were not tribal, and I want to go back to this, you cannot continue walking around with a mug which is clean outside and it's rotten inside.
We have become a Fuliza country. We have mortgaged our country because of debt.
You've got one chef working and the assistant chef wakati anatakana koroge unga nini hayuko.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
All right, it is Monday morning. Let's take a look at the road trip line. We already see a build-up on Mombasa Road today, and that's just past the SGR, moving out towards General Motors. This is expected because of Monday morning traffic, everybody off to work and to school as well. However, we've seen that certain parts of the road also have been affected because of the increased construction on the expressway as of over the weekend. All right, let's take a look then out of Nairobi into Mombasa. There's a long queue heading towards the ferry this morning. So if you've not left, please plan early because trying to get on the ferry this morning looks like it's going to take some time. So in Mombasa, going towards the ferry, long queues. So plan ahead of time. If you can wait, then please do so. Coming off of Thika Road this morning, getting to the CBD, that looks kind of slow. Right around Pangani, we already see build up on Kiambu Road, then trying to join Muthaiga Square and then take some time to get out of that. Okay, so the build up of traffic also goes towards Westlands coming to the CBD. So we see traffic in pockets all around. Let's see what it looks like in about half hour or so. Help us out here this morning, won't you? You get stuck somewhere, let other people know not to come in that direction, or if you find a good route, let us know as well. Spice FMKE on Twitter, text on 40127.
Spice FM, Malindi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4.
This headline in the Nation today. Pension shocker for civil servants. State workers have started feeling the pinch of a contributory scheme that will see them shoulder a portion of the retirement benefits bill. The scheme will be implemented in 3 phases, starting with deduction of 2% this year until 2023, and then workers will contribute 7.5% of their gross pay. The scheme was enacted in 2012, but met resistance from unions. So, something that happened in 2012 is becoming alive in 2021. What's that all about, CT?
You know, there are things which, when you read, seem to make a lot of sense. And when you think about them, you end up being a bit confused. Okay? Now, this is one of those cases. According to this newspaper article, we are being told, 2% will be the amount that will be deducted towards financing the state workers' newly introduced mandatory retirement savings scheme. Meaning, the savings scheme we had previously, NSSF, etc., there is a new one that was introduced. Remember, it's been talked about, right? But now 2% will be deducted. But let's dig a little deeper. Civil servants, teachers, and security forces are having to reorganize their budget after taking a 2% cut on their January pay slips, meaning January, 2% cut. So it's not something that you are going to be discussing. It has already happened.
This is gone, and it's in the law.
It has happened. All right? Now, the understanding is this. If we were to look at the bill that pensioners were supposed to receive, okay? Now, if you go back into history, in the year 2002, the annual pension bill for retired public servants was of this amount, 15 billion. Okay?
So that's how much annually we were paying retired people.
Yes. Now, let's fast forward it to June 2022, what we expect. Okay? This is expected to rise to 153 billion.
What?
Yes.
What?
Well, it means we've had...
And in last year, it was 109 billion.
Yes. We have expanded our workforce. And as you expand over the years, when you expand it, it also means that the people you're paying... But please understand, every year, people who enter that particular bracket of people who need to be paid exist. But there are people who entered it before. Pension is not a one-off. It's supposed to be a monthly payment. So all those people who had reached retirement age and who were being paid are still being paid. All right? And new people keep adding to those numbers.
So as more and more people retire, our bill rises.
It rises and rises. But also remember...
This is a sharp rise, though.
Yes, but the sharp rise is easy to explain. Over the years, the amount of money that civil servants, this bracket of people are talking about, has also increased.
Oh, their salary as well.
Yes, has also increased.
Yes.
So it means that even if it's 2%, but if you look at the sum from which the 2% is being deducted, it is more than in the previous years. So numbers plus that amount, so you have a situation where the amount keeps rising. But this amount, these figures we're being given here may not be entirely accurate in this sense. Not everyone who has retired has been receiving their money. There are also backlogs of people who ought to have been paid and have not been paid. So it is a nice mix. The sort of mix that people who like solving problems can get their head into and find ways of resolving.
So this one covers all government employees.
All.
So what it is, it's the Public Service Superannuation Scheme, the PSSS. The PSSS is everyone who is under 45 years old working in the public service. That's under the Public Service Commission, the Teacher Service Commission, the National Police Service Commission, or any other service that the Cabinet Secretary determines to be public service for the purposes of this Act. And this is the Cabinet Secretary, of course, in charge of Labour and the National Treasury as well. So, okay.
It was supposed to come operational in July 2020, really. All these things we're talking about.
So this has just been, kicking the can down the road. It gets to a point where now, surely, this thing was enacted in the Kibaki era.
It was. But also the thing that you must also bear in mind with regards to some of these things that we're talking about, and if you look at the economic climate that we are in, the truth of the matter is this. The trend that the government has clearly shown is that it is going to look for every which way.
Every shilling it can get.
It will get. There's no pussyfooting about it.
No.
Because when it's pension being deducted, you're not getting the money back tomorrow or next year. You have years before. And if you look at the workforce we have, that money will amount to a very tidy sum.
Yeah. So some money that goes into some kitty somewhere that is going to this superannuation fund, which
Yes.
will be invested in government operations,
Yes.
which will be lent to the government, which will, okay.
And also remember, these discussions do not require public participation.
It already happened.
You are told comes into law, it's done.
That's it.
Now, the public participation is you discussing how it's going to affect you.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
the Auditor General is seeking more funding to help taxpayers save cash. Now, this is for Kenyans. Good, yes? The Auditor General, Nancy Gathungu, has called for the expanded funding for her office to enhance service delivery and guarantee autonomy. While she admitted that her office has a broad constitutional and legal mandate, she regretted that it has scored poorly in international ratings because of the way it is funded. In her first media interview since she was appointed the country's second Auditor General in July last year, Gathungu called on MPs to amend the law and create a fund for the office, noting that it is the only way to guarantee its autonomy. And she says, this is one area where we have scored poorly in international rating. The National Treasury is the one that decides our allocation, but it is one of our key clients. Funding is the base of the autonomy. If the office is not adequately funded, it will erode all other forms of independence we have gained through constitutional and legal means. Although a critical anchor in undermining how public funds are used, the Office of the Attorney General is funded through annual collections proposed by the National Treasury and approved by the National Assembly. So their job is to make sure that people are spending money correctly. However, one of the bodies over which they're supposed to do this job is the one responsible for giving them the money they need to run. And they're basically begging, you know what, we need the money. You don't approve and amend the law. You don't amend and approve the law. We can't get this money, which we need to be able to get our job done. So she's saying, look, if we want to get it right, we need the money. Funding is the base. If the
Okay.
office is not funded, it will erode all other forms of independence.
Makes a lot of
Please.
sense. How do you guarantee these institutions their independence, even in the money?
Actually, you asked an important question, but with your permission, let me ask it differently. How do you ensure that state organs, independent or otherwise, who are likely to blow the whistle on you just in the normal course of duty, do not function optimally?
You nyonga their cash.
You starve them of cash. Yes. So they are independent, but they don't produce their monies independently.
Yep.
And they're dependent on the national
On somebody
government.
else.
Yes, because this issue I find it interesting that the office of the Auditor General is voicing an almost duplicate complaint that the judiciary has also voiced.
But you see, this is where, by the way, if you just look at it principally, this is the job of Parliament, and this is where Parliament fails. Because if Parliament was actually serious and it understands the importance of having these independent institutions working, Parliament is the one that receives this request from the Office of the Auditor General. It looks, so this is what you guys want to do this year? Yes, we shall guarantee that by passing and saying this is how much you shall fund this organization. Understanding full well that Parliament is an independent organ that requires its own funding, then look at others. The judiciary, let's fund the judiciary, let's fund the Office of the Auditor General, let's fund the Office of the DPP. Let's ensure that these offices are basically just well-oiled to do their job.
Eric, can I ask a question that may sound a little frivolous? Is there a body outside the general public that oversees the functions of Parliament?
Yes. Oh, outside the general public? No.
Because why I ask, an audit of the performance of our Parliament is absolutely necessary.
It's critical.
It is critical because with all the committees they have and these things that we pay for, now I'm speaking as a person whose employee is not in his mind doing what they're supposed to do, okay? All these things that we pay for, are we getting value for our money? Let's start with Parliament because we know the serious duties and functions that Parliament has.
Yeah.
It is a question that must be asked. It can't be just business as usual where every day we discuss this same thing and the people who ought to be doing it are not doing it. So, pinpoint which committee is supposed to be in charge of this. What have they done? Look at the track record.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
And then hold them to account. Because in all honesty, we cannot talk about a country that is going to the dogs as we watch Because we haven't sort of like migrated to some other country and we are just reading the news, the papers. We are here.
Yeah.
Experiencing it as,
Yes, yes.
as it actually
We
unfolds.
are right
and
here.
we are participating in ensuring that the country runs because we are doing our bit. Somebody isn't doing their bit.
Somebody's not doing their part.
And they'll come up with all these manner of explanations. Oh, this politics, if you understand. Because you look at the senior parliamentarians that we have, all right, in the current parliament. Look at the likes of James Orengo. Look at those people who have worked in parliament, who have pushed for reforms. And then you ask, so how are you helping to shape parliament to do what you always dreamed? And you told us that this was a dream of how parliament should run. If you hear the very many things, for example, that you'll hear some of these leaders say, they'll say, you know what, it's a push and pull. You've got to understand how to balance. You've got to look at the bigger picture of a country. You've got to understand where all of us are coming from. But some things, yes, there's a political move of it, and there's others where you basically have a job to do. When it comes to a budget has been presented to you, and you're looking at it and you're seeing you have 1 trillion shillings deficit in a budget. And you're wondering, so what now?
It's not a joke.
What are you guys talking about?
Yeah, it's not a joke.
We have moved from, in the last 8 years, our annual budget has moved by over 1.5 trillion shillings, has basically increased by over 1.5 trillion shillings. What exactly are we talking about?
Do we see 1 trillion shillings worth of activities going on in the country?
Imagine.
Unfortunately not.
Do we see 1.5 trillion shillings infusing into the lives of people to make it better? No. COVID notwithstanding.
Every year on year, now we are discussing a new budget that's going to come, and the deficit will be over the roof.
The Tanzania are in the process of setting in motion their equivalent of an SGR.
Yeah.
If you look at the trajectory of that particular line and where it ends up, it's in an area in Tanzania that is known to have one of the largest deposits of nickel on the planet. Now you'll ask, what is nickel used for? No shortage.
Nickelodeon.
Well done. Congratulations.
Batteries.
Oh my God.
It's important.
Bro, the things that you consume on weekends.
Wow.
Okay. All right. Fine. Nickelodeon. Let's just put that down as Eric's contribution to the discussion.
How's
Okay.
that for diverting your train of thought?
Hey. Oh, whoa.
Do you remember what you were going to
Hey, I do. I'm not lost. I'm just thinking where Nickelodeon came from. Batteries. But, and then look at Tanzania and look at how Tanzania are managing their mineral wealth. I'm leaving COVID out of the discussion. Tanzania has deposits of natural wealth that is probably the largest, again, on the planet. One of them, okay? People have wanted to buy concessions. People have wanted to invest. The huge economies of the world have tried to do that. The president has told them it is okay. But how do I know this? Because it is in the public domain.
Right.
We know what they have. We know what is happening. We know the arrangements that are being made. We even know arrangements that he put a halt to and said, no, we need to renegotiate this.
Let's go back. Let's go back to the drawing board.
Yes. Now, why am I mentioning this? We don't have any less natural mineral resources in this country. We don't actually. We have a lot of natural, but it is hush.
Chini ya maji.
It is all hush. We have iron ore. It is hush.
That is some of these places that are right now inaccessible.
Yes.
And there's conflict.
We have natural gas.
There are people who will fight you left, right, and center.
Precisely. We were talking about the power costs in Tanzania and how they are low. They have natural gas. They use it. We have natural gas. What do we do with it? We do have. It's not that we are thinking of having it, and it's not in one place. Okay?
So you don't use it.
we have rare earth. My friend, there is no shortage of what we actually have, but it's all hush hush. Now, if it was hush hush and we're doing nothing about it, it would be okay. But something is being done about it.
Yeah.
But it is natural mineral wealth for the country. Where on God's good earth does it go? How does the country benefit? You don't hear of it. And if you hear of it, it's because by chance you chance upon it. You meet someone. I know about our iron ore because I happened to just bump into someone at a hotel in Mombasa and we're chatting.
And they trade in this.
Yes. And I told him, no. It's Tanzania. He said, no, Kenya. I said, what? He said, you guys have the ore that we mine here is some of the best in the world.
Yeah,
high quality. And he told me then, before the Chinese started coming, that most of your iron ore goes to China. You know, China is still in the throes of... I paused, and when I did 2 and 2 together, I said, no wonder the Chinese are here in such large numbers. But this is hush hush.
You thought they were just here to build the superhighway?
The Kapedo area where we have problems, there's natural gas, among other things that actually exist there. Now, so you ask yourself, are we to close our eyes to the reality of what we have in our country and the reality of what is there? Now, Eric, you've heard me say on many occasions that it's not, we have money. We do.
There's money.
We do.
Psycho.
We do.
Psycho.
We do.
What we just don't have is something.
We do.
I now wanted to say something that's not.
No.
Wasn't going to
please.
be good. So let's just leave it.
No,
11 minutes to 7. Let's take a quick break and then look at other headlines in this paper because we have that time to take a break. And we have money. Right, 11 to 7.
So, there's a guy. He's a billionaire. And the KRA is looking for him. For at least 2 decades, tycoon Patrick Njiru Kuria has managed to live as a recluse, silently minting millions from his business without attracting public attention. Even when his business and family troubles have thrust him into the news, Mr. Kuria has somehow managed to stay away from the nosy media, making very few public appearances and statements unlike some of his peers. The man whose firm, Neo Kingston Hardware and Suppliers Limited, was featured in the Harvard Business Review for its unique business model in February 2017, is facing, get this, 9 billion shilling tax demand from the Kenya Revenue Authority. Kuria's lawyer yesterday told the Nation that this businessman would not wish to comment on any story on the company planned for publishing, but I'll ask him, he said. He was traced to, they traced now Kuria's private phone number on the internet, so I guess it's not so private, where it is listed for contact for an M-Pesa shop in Kirinyaga run by his Palea Stores Limited. So he didn't pick up those calls by the time the story went to press. While only a few know Kuria in the transport and building sector, he is king. His story dates back to the 1990s when he went on a matatu buying spree. He then went on into other businesses. They gave him a commercial vehicle, 16-passenger van, and this plied the Nairobi-Embu route in 1999. However, from there, he built up more in his fleet and has been able to build his business over time. Now, as quiet as he has been, according to KRA, he has also been very quiet in paying his taxes.
Wow.
And now, KRA has said that the money now owed to us is 9 billion shillings, and we are asking that you pay up. So he's one of those who has fallen into this.
Through this company, basically. They went to the appeals tribunal. The tribunal has ruled in the favor of KRA.
Yeah.
This is one of those where, there's always two sides to a story, but this one you'd like to hear the sides as well.
I would actually like to hear how it is that this guy is a billionaire. What is it that he does that makes him a billionaire? We had a gentleman called Cohen who was murdered. Murdered apparently because his body was found, I think it was in a
septic tank.
Yes, exactly.
In his own home.
And since the body was found and he had died, it is assumed that he didn't throw himself in there. Okay?
Yeah, and tie himself up.
Yes, so there was some foul play. He was also touted as a billionaire. When somebody is a billionaire, there must be something that they do that generates the billions. What is it that Kuria does? He's in hardware.
Yeah,
what sort of business? What sort of
cargo.
There are various businesses.
He's in sugar. He's in, transport of certain supplies. He's still in the transport business.
Public transport.
Owns a vehicle.
If I have
he
a
owns a petrol station.
all right. If I have a supermarket, I'll be trading in sugar. I'll be trading in all these things that you're saying. Okay, doesn't make me even a millionaire. Just means I trade in these things. What I'm asking is,
what makes one a billionaire?
yes, exactly.
Is it if you
volume.
look at the volume, the kind of revenues, the turnover
Yes.
of the overall businesses a year.
Yes.
So if you just look at this one, where let's say you're hired to transport sugar by Mumias from Mumias to warehouses in Nairobi, and you're paid 600 million shillings just for one job,
that drop.
and then you have another job where you own matatus, you have others where you do this and the other.
And you have a petrol station.
Petrol stations and all. You can just look at all those things and combine them and see.
Actually, I cannot.
Maybe
I can,
the revenues
I can
here.
combine them as much as I like, but I would
Because by the time KRA is saying that you owe them 9 billion shillings, you're also talking about the kind of revenues that have been recorded.
Of which the tax is 9 billion. You can imagine how much you were making.
I think you've actually gotten to where I'm going. This thing that he's doing that generates the sort of income that would
would
attract
be
9
taxed.
billion tax. That's really what I'm asking.
What is this? What are these businesses?
What are they? And what are the volumes?
By this particular one company.
Exactly.
Because it's one company,
What?
basically, not all the others. It's just the Palea stores.
So you're asking, is sugar really sugar?
Even if it is sugar, how much sugar is it that you'd need to sort of like transport or
There's also import.
or
There's
whatever?
imports as well.
9 billion shillings is a lot
Tax.
of money.
Tax.
That's just
And
the
it's tax, and it's a percentage. It's not at 80% of what you earn. No. It's on the higher side is 30. So what is it?
That KRA has looked at and seen.
Whose 30% value is 9 billion?
9B.
It's a problem.
It's a big one. Let's see. Let's see what the KRA says.
It'll be a little more scary if he goes up and pays his 9 billion shillings like that. You got to ask yourself, wow.
It'll open up Pandora's box.
I'm telling you, if he pays,
Yes, because now the question will be, okay, so you have money to pay this.
you have 9 billion
So
just
why
sitting
don't we have a
around.
look at what you really do and how much you really have?
Yeah, let's check around. What else you're doing? The Nation has a story about missing students, and this is about 120,000 learners in northern Kenya who dropped off. But also there is the issue of how many others have dropped off. At least 120,000 primary and secondary school learners have dropped out of school over the last 10 months in northern Kenya, according to the latest statistics. The Frontier Counties Development Council yesterday says 107,556 pupils and 13,478 students have quit class. According to the chairman, who's a Mandera Governor Ali Roba, the numbers paint a grim picture of the region, which, according to the Kenya Economic Survey 2019, had 1.295 million children in school. He's attributing the dropout to severe teacher shortage, with learning remaining paralyzed in most of the schools. So this is just one where, children have really dropped out. This is a big concern. For learners. There are very many reasons. So one of them is this shortage of teachers. And the other one, if you look at Mandera itself and the kind of incessant attacks they're getting from Al-Shabaab, then look at COVID and what COVID did. So it's something that the government can really look at. How do you get all the learners learning? How do you get all the learners who deserve to be accessing education, because it's a basic right guaranteed in the Constitution, them getting it? And this is why now you'll see activists actually going to court to sue the government for not giving its citizens the right.
And
Right.
appropriately,
This is not a
Access.
progressive right. This is a right that should be given now. It's basically a guaranteed right.
and
to
it is
basic
appropriate that
education.
they should take the government to court over this matter. Because if the government took it as seriously as they do certain other activities, then they would have found these children need to leave the country.
No.
They're in the country and they can be traced. Their families are known.
Yeah.
They should have that education.
They absolutely should. Looking at one of the top universities in the country, one of the international universities in the country, having to lay off staff as cash crisis hits varsities. USIU, according to the Vice Chancellor, Professor Paul Zeleza, who's been with us here before, has said that the dwindling student numbers over the last 3 years, coupled with the effects of COVID-19, have forced the university into cost-cutting measures, with the impending staff layoff being one of them. So they're looking at laying off 70 staff, something that has never happened before at the institution. He said the details of the affected staff are being worked on and that they will be communicated directly to the affected staff. The university has an enrollment of over 4,000 students and is one of the top private universities in Kenya. Since the advent of COVID, the university had to take several measures to contain costs, ensure financial sustainability, key of which included renegotiation of service contracts, a complete freeze on projects, sending non-essential employees on paid leave, as well as termination of all short-term employment contracts. They continue to pay full salaries to all employees in March to August 2020, according to the VC, but are no longer able to do this. And so we see this affecting, even until now, affecting quite a number of institutions now, this being the latest one of them. It's interesting because they say this, when they say that dwindling numbers, also look at the other side, where you see that some students have actually had to drop out of university for not being able to afford the fees.
Dwindling numbers means something.
Yes.
It means that there's somebody who was initially going to USIU and now they're unable to go back to USIU. And it's not because they suddenly hated education.
No.
Well, that could be one of the reasons.
Well,
but the other
not
reasons
in the numbers
also...
that they were seeing that was enough for the university to feel the impact.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's about the kind of people who have lost their sources of income and they cannot therefore afford this. Now, the question would be, have those people moved to a public university, to a cheaper institution, or are they completely out of university? That would be a big question to respond to. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room. Keep it right here. In the next 2 hours, we'll be live on KTN Home as well. So, Benoit, philanthropist, and you're asking about the frequency in Ravine, Baringo County. Let's try 96.7. That's the Eldoret frequency. Maybe it can get you on the Ravine. Or, if that doesn't work, try 96.0. That's the Nakuru frequency. And that should also try maybe coming closer to you. Okay? Let us know how that goes. Good morning. It's 7 o'clock.
Spice FM, Nakuru.
Okay, Kiambu Road this morning is a sandwich of vehicles and it doesn't look really good right around 7 o'clock, and trying to get between the DCI and Muthaiga Square is crazy. It's not bumper to bumper, it's bumper on bumper at this point, and it's going to take a while to get out of this one. Githurai to Kasarani also nice and thick this morning. It's not moving at all. Kiambu Road, we've already looked at that. We're already at 5 lanes. What used to be a dual carriageway is now in the numbers at 5. All right. Kenya Ferry Services have said this morning, looking out into Mombasa, that 3 ferries are at your service at the Likoni Channel and 1 at the Mtongwe Channel. However, we see long queues this morning for some reason. Not quite sure what the problem is right there. All right. Coming off at the Komarok Road, Koch Bridge, traffic flow is heavy towards Outer Ring and Kariobangi. Ngong Road traffic starts at Ngong Town. The question is, what is happening on our roads today? It's Monday morning. Things are already looking manic. Let's take a look in a short while and see how this may change. But guys, it is crazy. The eastern and southern bypasses are looking good. However, at Ngong Road there, it clogs up just a little bit. Talk to us. Spice FMKE. Text us on 40127. Let's try and get out of this one alive today.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way
It's
to
2.5
start your
minutes
day.
after 7. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. We thank you very much for tuning in to Spice FM online, spicefm.co.ke and www.spicefm.co.ke, and also on our social media handles on Facebook, on YouTube and Twitter. And for the next 2 hours, we're also live on KTN Home. Very good morning to our audience on KTN Home. Let's begin the hour with today's proverb. C.T. Muga.
Don't think there are no crocodiles just because the water is calm.
Just because the water is calm, don't think it's safe. Danger lurks
Somewhere.
Hey, okay. Usione nimenyeshewa udhani mimi ni paka.
Existence
You like that thing?
of crocodile. He loves.
No,
Yes,
no,
if you
go with the
see-
times.
If you see a cat that has been rained on, don't think it's a rat. No,
Yes.
we've got that one, yes.
Okay.
Simba ni simba.
Hata ikiwa inaonekana kama panya.
Hata ukimnyoa manyoya bado ni simba. Okay. So something happened on Friday which was quite something, right? And this is because there's a gentleman who had gone to the court in Meru and he made an application. And the application was filed by city lawyer Isaiah Mongela, and it was before a judge in Meru. And he was basically saying that, you see, there's a lady called Philomena Mbete Mwilu. She is officially the Deputy Chief Justice, and she is now the Acting Chief Justice of the Republic. Your Honor, Mr. Judge, should this person really be accessing office? Because, you see, there have been issues that have been raised about her integrity. And the judge was like, okay, so, baby, what do you want? So the first thing that I'd like you, Your Honor, to do is issue an order barring her from accessing office. So the judge is like, okay, so here you go. He argues the standard of moral and ethical probity required of the first respondent, that is the Chief Justice, is that required of a constitutional office holder in respect of whom a criminal prosecution has commenced. The standard requires a constitutional office holder who is the subject of a criminal prosecution either be suspended or step aside and does not discharge the function of the constitutional office until the criminal prosecution is concluded. Now, Justice Frederick Otieno agreed, and this is what the judge said. Basically, the judge said, all right, so I bar Philomena Mwilu from acting and accessing office and acting as acting Chief Justice, acting as Deputy Chief Justice, serving in the Judicial Service Commission, also acting as Ombudsman of the Judiciary, pending determination of this particular matter that has been brought before me. Hey, fire and brimstone has not followed this conversation like that. So there are those that say, now, surely, how can a judge suspend a judge from sitting as a judge? Who gave the judge the judging orders?
But is that not the functions? One of the functions that someone who sits in a court of law as a judge, is that not one of the functions?
Now, the other thing now comes in. To remove a judge, it is clear in the Constitution and in the law, the procedure for removing a judge from office. File a complaint with the Judicial Service Commission. Judicial Service Commission shall investigate briefly, shall recommend to the President to form a commission. A commission shall be formed by the President. Commission shall then investigate this matter and present a report. If a report is for this judge to be removed from office, the JSC shall advise the President shall do the job. There is a clear procedure. We cannot just wake up and decide, you know what, I don't like you, so you step aside. No, follow procedure.
Is that what happened? But none of this has been done yet. The process has not even begun. What essentially has happened is that you have been suspended from your duties for now.
Yep.
Right? You can't carry out these duties for now until this case then can be seen and heard, which is now this process that you're talking about.
And
But
that suspending,
until it is
is also done by the President according to the law, you know. When the president forms a commission, the president also suspends the judicial officer, whether it's a judge of the Supreme Court or Court of Appeal, High Court. It comes with, I suspend you and I form a tribunal. This tribunal shall investigate these allegations.
So according to what you're saying, then things have not been done right. Somebody cannot just, as you say, wake up out of the blue
Not me. Those who are arguing with this.
Okay, so you had so this is where you set it. As it has been argued.
Yes.
You can't just wake up and say that, look, we find that there's a problem here. There's cause for these individuals to step down from this until it is determined. According to the procedure, it must come from the seat of the president.
We've gone a bit far. The office of the Chief Justice and the Deputy, they're not tied together at the hips like the president and the deputy. Or are they? Because Justice Mwilu didn't just wake up yesterday. She's been deputy CJ for a long time.
Yes.
Why has this not been the issue when she was deputy CJ? Because it stands to reason that her position as deputy CJ is what has allowed her to ascend to the position of acting Chief Justice. So why is it now, when she's acting Chief Justice, that this matter has suddenly become so important? Why?
Why do you want the now to be the issue and not the substance of the matter?
It is a substance that I'm wondering. Why now? I'm actually asking a pertinent question.
So you're saying the substance has existed all this time?
Why are you operationalizing it now?
And why has this issue never come up?
Why?
It's not that it has never come up. This issue has come up.
There's a big hole where...
The judge has acted now, but it's not the first time that this issue has come up.
Look,
2 weeks ago, though, a similar case was taken before a different judge, and a different judge came up with a different outcome.
You know,
these issues have been raised.
The cases that she has had in court.
Justice Mwilu be serving in office?
Those questions have been asked, yes.
By virtue of the
so
fact
what were they doing? Shopping for a judge who would give a judgment that they favor?
Oh, that's when we look. But
no, the question has to be asked, because is that what's happening? Look, the cases against Justice Mwilu arose from a time even before she was in the Court of Appeal. There's a whole slew of them, okay? Now, examples have been given of cases of impropriety with regards to governors in this country, okay? I cannot pretend to understand the rule of law when it comes to juxtaposing these situations and applying them in different circumstances. I cannot. But
should it be different, though? Should it be different
Principally.
when you say a governor, for example, has these charges leveled against him or her, and according to the courts, then you should not access your office and you're not allowed to access your office. Should it be different then when it comes to the office of a judge, deputy CJ,
Actually,
for that matter?
It shouldn't.
And then they say, okay,
no,
well,
it
hold
shouldn't.
on a minute. You shouldn't actually be able
No,
to
it shouldn't.
access your office.
It
so
shouldn't.
what you're saying then is that it should have come before.
Yes.
Not now, because there's
yes.
a vacancy in the seat of the
that's what I'm saying. Because from if we were to go by this, it's not something you need to go to court about. It's a damn thing. The moment these things come before the court and these are the accusations leveled against you, then there's the indication that you're tainted. Indication? So until it is proved otherwise, you cannot.
It would appear that somebody has their knickers in a twist, because this individual could essentially rise to the position of CJ, and she has these cases against her. And for that reason, we need to bring it up now.
I support those knickers getting into it. Look, you see, it happens the first time. The Director of Public Prosecutions makes a public statement and says, okay, I have received a file from the DCI and these are the allegations against the sitting Deputy Chief Justice. I have therefore ordered the arrest, and the person is arrested and whisked. All right? Then we'll start moving. Court says this was the wrong procedure for the DCI and the DPP to follow. If you have an issue against a sitting judge, especially somebody this high, follow procedure. Go to the Judicial Service Commission. What does the DPP do? DPP goes to the Judicial Service Commission. What does the Honorable Deputy Chief Justice do? Goes to court, as is her right, and files an application and says, you know what, these guys, you should stop them from starting this, commencing this investigation. What? So the wheels have been moving. And you're sitting back there and you're seeing, okay, the wheels are moving. Yeah, the wheels of justice are moving. But as the wheels of justice are moving, the wheels of fate are also moving. And this person who is sitting as the Deputy Chief Justice now starts acting as the head of the judiciary. So I can understand the reason why somebody would decide, hey, wait. I was sitting back and I was waiting for at least something to happen, but this something appears not to be happening so fast. I will go to court now.
Yeah, because essentially what's happening is that this thing is hurtling towards the finish line where this individual could actually be named Chief Justice of the country. And there are cases against her which have yet to be determined.
There are allegations that have been brought.
Yes, there's a
questioning
likelihood.
her integrity.
Yes, there's a likelihood that could happen. But the appointment of the Chief Justice is not that simple. There's a process also that we go through before you can get a Chief Justice.
Yes.
Sure, but by virtue of the fact that her name is in the running in the first place is now what is now bringing a lot of this fever. Yeah, her name is in the basket.
Yes, I know the name is in the basket and I know she's acting, but all the cases of the governors that we speak of, before some were even taken before the Senate and legally removed from their jobs, there are others who've had corruption cases, and it is on the basis of this that Justice Mumbi gave that ruling that we've been debating and wondering, so when does this mean? When does it apply? When does it not apply? A person no less than the DPP even sought further clarification on this particular matter.
Yeah.
All right? It is that clarification that I am now seeking, because I can understand the wheels of justice moving and I'm seeing them moving. Then I'm wondering, okay, I may be wondering, or my wonderings may be amiss completely, and it may be my conspiratorial mind that is at work here. Yeah. But unfortunately, the timing has to raise questions. Why now? When it could
have been done earlier.
Eric has brought in the element of fate. Yes, it is true. Fate can conspire for such a thing to happen at such a time. But I personally do not have sufficient reason to support even the concept of fate in this particular issue.
Why not?
Because this is Kenya.
Okay, but at the same time, City, let's give, you can look at it from that angle, the political side of things. Oh, why? So are you trying to block her from, are you trying to impose a new person in your favor? But on the other hand, assume somebody who is as upstanding citizen, tax-paying of this Republic of Kenya, like City Muga, actually sat back and asked himself.
Sorry. Repeat it again. No, this is, please start again. Yes, City Muga, who is an upstanding
citizen of high integrity and pays the taxes on time, has no debt for of anyone,
my God, you're
owes nobody.
aren't you?
Oh, I have debts. Go on. Yes.
And you're paying them.
Of course, I'm paying them.
There you go. So he's not a defaulter of that. Wakes up and asks himself, but why are these things happening? I ought to get my answers. You sit back and you ask yourself, is it okay for this person to actually continue holding office? If I look back, court has said, Lenol Kulal, Samburu, don't access your office because of questions of your integrity have been brought before this court. Court has said, Tharaka-Nithi, governor, do not access office. Migori, governor, do not access office. The others don't access office. And here is somebody who's a state officer still accessing office just because they've gone to court and they've filed applications here and there.
Eric,
yet issues of integrity have been raised about this person.
Did the governors also not file cases?
They have.
What I'm saying,
office?
No, but that's my point. She shouldn't have accessed office from the time.
In the first place.
Yes.
From the time you even had that suggestion that she was going to court to stop investigations,
she shouldn't have accessed
about
office.
These cases. She shouldn't have accessed office.
Maybe
that's what I'm saying.
Doesn't it smell as if there's something rotting in the state of Denmark when you hear something like that? That she's gone to court to stop investigations about a case.
You've decided Hamlet should feature in this case this early in the morning.
Yes.
Okay.
Doesn't it? You smell a rat, don't you? That look, she's stopping these investigations. Why? Is there something that you don't want to be found out?
Anyway,
why? At that point,
let's bring in somebody who understands the constitution and the law and the practice in the corridors of justice to help us unravel this. This is constitutional lawyer Kamodo Waiganja. Good morning, Kamodo.
Morning. How are you? And how is everybody?
We are well, thank you, sir.
Happy New Year.
Yes. Happy New Year to you.
Kamodo, of course, we'd have wanted to have you on video, but unfortunately, we were not unable to do that this morning. But we are glad that you're joining us on the phone anyway.
Yes.
This matter that happened in Meru, Kamodo, And then the whole hullabaloo and the reactions and counter-reactions from members of the legal fraternity. What is your basic reading of the order that was given by the judge, Patrick Jeremy Otieno?
Yes. All right. I think let's first deal with basics.
Yeah.
Every Kenyan is entitled to go to court and challenge that sort of environment, and raise significant constitutional questions that arise in relation to the continued holding of office of the Deputy Chief Justice. I have had opportunity to read the petition. It's very well done and it's very well argued, and it does not seek to remove her from office. It is basically asking the question as to whether she should continue to hold office while there are substantive issues raised before her, against her, both at the JSC and in court, where she was the subject of criminal proceedings. And the petition actually, and I've listened to you the last couple of minutes, and the petition actually relies very, very heavily on the decisions by the courts themselves on what happens to state officers who've been charged with offenses. And so it's not a frivolous case. I think the problem with it is that because of its impact and the fact that what the effect of it is to cripple the Supreme Court and to leave the judicial branch without a substantive head, I think the problem with the decision is that it was made ex parte. I mean, that is the kind of case that you want to make a decision after a hearing. After a hearing, the other parties have made their presentations, and then you make a decision. In fact, in an ideal world, this is the sort of case that you want to actually subject to more than one judge. In an ideal world, because of its implications, and because it is going to be misread as political hatchet work. But I do think that it raises very, very important questions. The case raises very important questions about who will watch the watchers. If judicial officers can get any kind of orders, from the courts, and you remember the courts also operate sometimes as a trade union, look out for me, I look out for you, then what happens to the integrity of the courts themselves in terms of how people view the courts, And so I think so. Therefore, it's not. And I know the problem is that because there's a political anchor to this, because of the Supreme Court and ratification of the election and the issues around there. But if one was to put that aside for a moment and assume this was not Justice Mwilu, and it is another High Court judge who was charged with another offense, and they also go and get an order and another change and go and they continue to run and to continue in office. But every other citizen, every other state officer who is charged is required to go home. It does not help the integrity of the system. And in fact, it is unfortunate that the judge herself, once she was charged, had not actually offered to step aside. Some things actually you don't even require to be removed, because if you believe you're innocent, you will be vindicated. In fact, what you should have done is and then process the matter quickly, because that is possible. But if judges get an opportunity and like every other citizen to be able to stop proceedings against them, they're able to obtain all manner of orders in their favor, it does not help affirm the integrity of the judicial system. Finally, don't forget that Lady Justice Mwilu is continuing with her operation as a judge by virtue of a court order.
Yeah.
It's a court order. She had already been charged, but she stopped the proceedings through a court order. So she shouldn't be surprised that a court order can also be given against her.
Right.
It works both ways. So I'm just saying that it's very important that we also we look at the bigger picture about what this sort of activity does to people's faith in the justice system generally. And it's
Mr. Waigandi, explain this point to me that I don't really understand. How is it that when it came to the governors, orders such as the one barring them from accessing their offices was put into effect because of the case that had been leveled against them? And then you have a judge of the appeal court or a judge now as deputy CJ has a similar case in court, things being leveled against her. How was that not operationalized? I mean, I've understood that she had a court order, but these other governors also had court order. Yes.
No. You see what happens, the governors try to get orders, the same sort of orders that Justice Mwilu was able to get. They tried to get, they were all refused. Each of those judges...
By the same courts, no less.
By the same court, yeah. The court gave in fact, it was a 3-judge bench decision, I believe, by Justice Mombi, Odunga, and somebody, I can't remember, who made a very substantive ruling and saying once your integrity has been raised, this is not just suspicion. An allegation has been made, but you have actually been charged by an independent office. Remember, the DPP is an independent office.
Yeah.
One can talk about politics. At least constitutionally, it's an independent office. Once you have been charged by an independent office, the court said it is only right for the integrity of the constitutional order that you step aside. That is what was applicable to the governors. And people raised issues about, look, this is a very slippery slope we're going down. Because if you go there, then it means you're allowing for if you have a wicked DPP, they can basically get rid of you by just charging you. And the minute you're charged, you leave. But if you put that aside and assume that the decisions made in respect of the governors were right and were legally sound, it does not make sense at all that that when it comes to a judicial officer, those same rules don't apply. And the only reason they don't apply is because it's your fellow judges making the decision. At least that's how people would read it. That if it was any other citizen, the rules apply, except they don't apply
But
to
is
judges.
there any other way of reading it, Mr. Waiganjo?
Yes, tell me.
No, I don't know.
Those arguing against
That's how I would read it.
Those arguing here say, Kamodo, that, there's a constitutionally laid out procedure of removing a judge from office.
Hello, stop right there. There's also a constitutional procedure for removing governors. They are. So, you see, by the way, I'm not talking about the merits or otherwise of whether people should. In fact, I don't believe that the sorts of things that happen to the governors should actually be done. Because if you have a decision to remove the governor, go through that process. But I am not even there as to whether that is right or wrong. All I'm saying is that if you accept that rule is right for governors, then you must allow, or for any other state officer, when we charge a minister, they step aside. When we charge the PS, they step aside. Automatically. It cannot be that because you as a judge can be able to go to your fellow judges and get an order, that makes it right. What it does, it brings a disrepute to the justice system. It makes it look like this is a scratch my back, a scratch yours, looking out for your brother. And that is not good for the judiciary. And that is not to say that Justice Mwilu is guilty. I mean, and that is not to even say that, there would be no political heart at work in trying to remove her. But if you make that argument, then there can also be political heart at work in removing governors. I mean, each of them, Sonko has made that allegation. He has said it's because he's Tanga. Waititu made the same allegation. It's because he's Tanga. Samburu made the same allegation. So each of them have said this is political work. So if you make the argument that the reason you're protecting Justice Mwilu is because it's political heart at work, then the political heart at work was also there for the governor. So all I'm saying is that what is good for the goose surely must be good for
the
duck.
gander.
Not the gander. We were told
the duck
is good for duck.
Yes.
Listen to the woman rep like
Indeed. Let's take a break at this point. Kamodo Iganja, constitutional lawyer, joining us on the line. We are discussing the High Court judge in Meru who gave an order barring Deputy Chief Justice and Acting Chief Justice Philomena Mwilu from accessing office, also from serving in the Judicial Service Commission or as judiciary ombudsperson. Well, one of the comments that came out immediately was from Senator James Orengo, who, of course, we also must remember that he is one of the lawyers that have represented Justice Mwilu in these particular cases. He says, the rule of law is broken and judicial anarchy sets in when judicial processes are used and abused to achieve unlawful outcomes or brazen political objectives. The orders obtained ex parte against CJ Mwilu is an egregious act of judicial terror and oppression. We will discuss that and other kind of reactions that have come out of this after this break. Keep it right here. We're live on KTN Home, we are live on Spice FM, and we are also live online. We'll be back shortly.
There are so many people peddling what is false and that it bears remarkable resemblance to what is true.
Politicians have their agenda, and their agenda is to use every opportunity to sell that agenda and to loot this nation.
I have seen major strides that are done
in this country when we talk to each other as against talking at each other.
We start getting back into the tribal cocoons which were put to us by the colonial powers. You know, they gave us physical freedom but not mental freedom. We're still mentally colonized today into these cocoons of tribe.
Now, if you live in an area where it's difficult to find a dog,
He's a goat. I kid you not.
In which part of this country is it difficult to find a dog? So that you resort. Afande hii umbo yako iko na pembe.
hii ni umba special.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. 24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Health is an important component in the life of a human being. A nation's prosperity is pegged on its citizens' well-being and proper health infrastructure. The right to health is a fundamental human right guaranteed in the Constitution of Kenya. But during this pandemic period, the health sector has faced many challenges that have affected their services. Pregnant women and those seeking reproductive health services have been the most affected. On our second episode of Kiocha Hoja, we will focus on the effects of COVID-19 on women's health and how they can be cushioned in the future.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
13 degrees and mostly sunny conditions in Nairobi today. Highs of 27 coming back down to lows of 13. It's a bit chilly in Nyeri today at 7. Highs of 24 when it does get warm, but then it will come back down to lows of 7. It's sunny in Nakuru at 12. Highs of 30 and lows of 11. Sunny conditions also rule Eldoret skies at 10. Highs of 26 and lows of 11 today. It's sunny in Kisumu at 20. That'll be the low for today, going to highs of 32. It's mostly sunny in Kakamega at 10, highs of 33 and lows of 15. Partly sunny conditions in Mombasa at 24 degrees, going to highs of 32. We're also looking at highs of 31 in Malindi, partly sunny at 25 at the moment. It's mostly sunny in Kampala at 17, highs of 28 and lows of 18. Dar es Salaam is mostly cloudy this morning. There's a chance of rain, but we'll have to wait and see, going to highs of 32 and lows of 25. Rain in Johannesburg at 17, highs of 23 and lows of 12. And Lagos, light rain this morning, 26 at the moment, highs of 33 and lows of 25. And it's cloudy in Kinshasa, beckoning the skies as well. Highs of 33 coming back down to lows of 23.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Traffic.
What are we looking at today? Thika Road has been one accident after another, unfortunately, all the way from Roy Sambu. Then we've had one accident a few meters down the road, another one, quite some, and unfortunately one of those fatal today. So guys, if you're getting on Thika Road, anywhere else really, be extremely careful. We still see bumper to bumper craziness on Kiambu Road, and that's all the way from the DCI out towards Muthaiga Square today. So if you're headed in that direction, just know that you're not going to be able to get through with ease. Actually, it's quite bad. Also looking at a standstill on Mombasa Road, all the way from General Motors out through towards Bellevue and then beyond Capital Center today. So that one not moving. If you didn't leave earlier, we're going to be stuck in this for some time. Just giving you that information. Let us know if you do find a better route. Is the service lane working for you? Let us know. Is the bypass a better idea? Let us know that too on Spice FM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4.
29 minutes to 8 o'clock. The conversation continues right here on Spice FM, KTN Home and online. In the room, Eric Latif, CT Muga Nduoko. Joining us on the line for a couple of more minutes is constitutional lawyer Kamodo Waiganja. We're discussing the order that was issued by a judge in Meru who asked Deputy Chief Justice Philomena Mwilo to stop acting as CJ, to stop serving as DCJ and a member of the JSC and Ombudsman of the Judiciary until a case that was filed before the High Court in Meru is heard and determined. Then there's a political side of things. And Kamodo, let's bring in that political angle of things.
Yes.
The timing of
Yes.
this, the the people reading in too much into, why here, why go all the way to Meru, why file it in Meru, why does this judge go ahead and give such an order? Does the judge himself have matters that have been raised about his own integrity brought before the JSC? Are they being investigated? Is DCJ Mwilu sitting in those investigations? Let's just unravel that, the politics of this.
Yes. Well, naturally, one would expect in the context of Justice Mwilu's position as acting Chief Justice, and in relation to her various scruffles with the system, that obviously people read politics in this situation. So that is not surprising. I think, however, there's an overreaction to the matter. Remember that this is just one judge who has made this decision. That decision can be reviewed by the same judge. That decision can be appealed from. One can go to the Court of Appeal and get appropriate orders to stay that, to strike out that decision. So I don't think that all is lost. This is just a High Court judge. You still have the Court of Appeal. So I don't think that this is the end of the matter. But I think the question I think we need to ask, the more fundamental question we need to ask is, do we believe that the DPP can be used for political purposes, and that the DPP is not independent enough from the executive? If we accept that in the affirmative, then we must then apply that argument across the board, so that any case that the DPP raises against someone who holds a political office or who has we must assume that there are politics involved. In which case, then we need to read them and read any orders pursuant thereto with the political to wear political glasses to look at the DPP's actions. Now, and that is why I say, you see, if you argue that, and by the way, people raised that issue when the governors came, and let me repeat that. People ask the question: the easiest way now to remove a governor is to charge them with an offense. So if you accept that the DPP is not independent and can be used politically, then that is a very dangerous route to go. And in which case, then the court must then be very careful in allowing the DPP then to obtain the sort of orders he obtained against the governors by stopping them from working, because then it means that you're accepting that the DPP can be used politically. Now, that is why I say, if you make that argument, and it's a legitimate argument, then that argument must apply across the board.
Right.
So let's put that aside. The other one is, where it was a case filed in Meru. I've looked at the parties. It looks like the person who filed the case is a person from Meru. So they're entitled, the High Court is a national court. They're entitled to file it in Meru. It's a fairly well-argued case. Actually, my problem with the case and the judge's decision, like I said, is that he allowed this decision to be made ex parte. You should not make an ex parte decision in this kind of matter, because there's no crisis. It's not like someone is about to be hanged. The DCJ has been in office since she was charged. It's been 6 months. So what is the crisis that you need to resolve? And that is what brings in some suspicion,
But Mr. Waiganjo, does the judge have the leeway legally to make the decision that he had made?
Oh yes. The orders that were made they are made all the time. Conservatory orders are made all the time. But a prudent judge will usually, because the judge has a discretion to make that decision without hearing the other party. But I'm saying, because of the effect of this matter, understanding the politics of that are going to arise, or the political accusations that are going to be made, recognizing that you now cripple the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court essentially cannot now function until they appoint a Chief Justice, because I don't think they are going to appoint the other judges for a while. It means that the Supreme Court, the whatever courts of this country, cannot operate, and we don't know how long the process of appointing the Chief Justice will take.
Right.
Suppose we end up, with this sort of lacuna, and for some reason we had a presidential election or something like that requires the Supreme Court to make a decision. So I'm just saying the implications of this decision are so grave that you don't make a decision like that lightly. And in fact, for me, it is the speed and the quickness with which he made an ex parte decision that would raise issues of suspicion.
So
but that
if not taking into
that,
consideration, Kamodo, the impact that this would have, just enlighten us a little bit about what kind of impact are we seeing that this decision would have on the courts, and what does that stop today? in terms of expansion of justice and things like this?
The Supreme Court basically has no quorum. The minimum quorum for the Supreme Court to sit is 5 judges. It now has 4, which means the Supreme Court is not. And already there are quite a number of pending decisions in the Supreme Court that can now not be processed. So that is your problem, number one. Number two, substantively, there is no provision for an acting Deputy Chief Justice or deputy other than the DCJ, which means now the third arm of government has no head. We have no head of the judiciary. And don't forget that the Chief Justice also plays an administrative role. He's the one who makes decisions about how benches, three judge benches are set up. In the absence of the Chief Justice, there's nobody else to carry out that role, which means you creep on not just the Supreme Court, but significant processes of the delivery of justice. And so what I'm saying that you don't make a decision with those sorts of implications that likely. That really is
that brings in the debate then. So it can't be accidental, can it?
Now, I am not in the business of conspiracy theorizing because and the reason I am not is because these sorts of decisions have been made before. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You see people being stopped from holding office. This has happened before, I mean.
But with all the extenuating circumstances such as this one, how often has this happened?
Precisely. We haven't had a judge who's been charged in court and has been allowed to continue practicing. So maybe we needed a first time. It's not like there's been other judges where this happened and they were not, these did. So there's nothing. I'm just saying that if one were to argue objectively, you would say that even if the judge was technically right, a prudent judge should not have done this. But that is not to assume. Judges are also entitled to make mistakes, Eric.
Yeah.
We must not always assume that when people do something, it is because there's an objective and agenda they are pursuing. Judges are entitled to make mistakes, and that's why you have an appellate process.
I must ask you, though, at this point, could it have waited? If it, like you said, if it waited for 6 months, could it have waited another 6 months looking at the repercussions of the decision?
It could have. It could have. And that's what I mean, that this is not the sort, and that's what I'm talking about, an expected decision. This is not the sort of decision you make by yourself after hearing one party. It's not normal. Normally what judges will do is go serve the other side, let them come. You can still make the final decision in that direction. But at least you will have the benefit of having both parties. You will have considered the implications of what you're doing. People, you've given it a merited thought. But if you rush it like this, then you open yourselves to allegations of interference, even if they are not right. They say justice must not just be done; it must also be seen to be done. And he may have done justice here, but people don't see because what's a crisis?
That's very true.
So but I think to finish, Eric, is to say let us discuss the wider question about whether judges are entitled to more protections than the rest of the country because they are the ones who make decisions. And this is not unique to Kenya. I remember in India, the judges even said that, setting up an accountability mechanism in the constitution is interfering with judicial independence. We're talking about the ombudsman. People are saying if you appoint an ombudsman, that is interfering with the judicial independence. Come on, the ombudsman has no powers other than making recommendations to the JSC. How does that interfere with the judiciary independence? So there's an overreaction sometimes about judicial independence, as if judges are angels, as if they don't make mistakes, as if they cannot be involved in matters that are abuse of integrity.
Yeah.
So all I'm saying is that if you want to apply the rule of law, please apply it across the board. Don't apply it
not in one way and in another. Before we let you go, Kamodo, there's something that you've raised here. I mean, this particular order and how it exposes the judiciary and the service to the citizens in terms of accessing justice. But then also it exposes a lacuna in the law. Suppose something else were to happen to DCJ Mwilu today.
Yeah. Yes, that's true.
What would
there's a problem.
What happens?
There's a problem. Yeah, there's a problem. In an ideal world, and I think that now requires for probably a tweaking of the Judicial Services Act. Of course, if something happened to Justice Mwilu and there's no quorum, there's nothing anyone can do, because you'd have then to appoint a judge. And
who's responsible for that appointment?
The Judicial Service Commission. which still has a full quorum even in her absence.
Okay.
So the JSC can continue to do its work. I think the question is, should there be somebody who is appointed by the JSC in the meantime to be the head of the judiciary, a sort of acting somebody? I don't know whether you still call him an acting chief justice. I don't know. So there's a
But does the president have a say after the Judicial Service Commission have finished their work?
On appointment of the chief justice?
Final appointment.
Yes.
The final appointment is by the president.
Okay.
It's the same situation we had with the judges.
Under 41, yes.
The president plays a fairly ceremonial role. The Constitution anticipates a fairly ceremonial role, but the fact that you require him to appoint, it means tends to say he can refuse to appoint.
It is clear that anticipation has been thwarted, hasn't it? Because those 41 judges have not been appointed to date.
They've gone to court and gotten orders, and those orders haven't got anywhere. But I think there are fundamental questions about who. I can't remember the Latin maxim of who watches the watchers. When judges go wrong and they can go to court and get orders, what happens? And I think that's a conversation we really need to have.
That's true. Kamodo Iganjo, thank you very much for joining us today. We wish you a great day.
Asante.
Asante sana. Now let's open up the conversation. What do you make of the High Court order in Meru requiring Deputy Chief Justice Philomena Mwilu to step aside pending the determination of her case? This, as you've heard from constitutional expert Kamodo Iganjo. So first of all, there's the effect that it has had right now. Today, the Supreme Court cannot sit. It does not have quorum. Why? Because quorum requires 5 judges of the Supreme Court. Right now, there are only 4 judges, if we go by this order, because Chief Justice Maraga retired. Justice Jackton Ojwang retired. Now, DCJ Mwilu not able to access office or sit in the JSC. 3 of 7 judges out. No quorum. Who is supposed to determine those kind of multi-judge benches, 3 to 5 judge benches? Chief Justice in the administrative role. No Chief Justice. That means that those benches then cannot also be formed. Big issues here. But we go back into that point. Should she continue serving? If issues of integrity have been brought out against the judge, should that judge continue serving? If issues of integrity have been brought and Justice Mumbi Ngugi and her colleagues have been very, very vocal and clear on this, and this matter was upheld by a court of appeal, that a governor who is in office and then is charged before a court of law should not access office. Should any other state officer access office?
It's very clear to me here that if it doesn't, then it would appear that question that Kamodo asks is that are judges, entitled to greater protections because of the positions that they hold? And I don't think that it should be that way. It's very clear to me here that, look, if we're talking about the same things, and it's a whiff, it has not been proven. It has not gone through the court process. It has not gone through the trial process. It is an allegation. There's been a charge, right? That alone should make you either and I've always said it, there comes an accusation or allegation, step down. Let them do their investigation. If they find that nothing, you be exonerated and you come back to your position. If they do, totally different story. But it can't just be for governors. I would be very interested to note if Justice Mumbi Ngugi was talking just about governors when she made that ruling, or was she talking about state and public officers?
Principally state officers.
Exactly. Principally state officers, when she said, look, there's an allegation that has been brought against you. There's a charge that has been leveled. You should not access office because there is a stain that has been placed on that position and that office. Step aside.
So we can also argue. We can also argue
that
here
you actually
and
ask
say,
a court order to come and stop investigations about you as an individual, which for me there shows something there that's a bit untoward.
We can argue this other way. All right. So DPP charges Justice Mwilu in court. Justice Mwilu questions the manner in which she's been charged in court, right? So Justice Mwilu gets orders saying, DPP and DCI, you followed the wrong procedure. You should go through the JSC. DPP goes through the JSC. So maybe you can say at this particular point, then that charging is pending the matter before the JSC.
We also heard that there were governors who wanted to do the same thing and went to the same courts and asked that those processes be stopped because they did not follow process.
They were all denied.
And if I remember specifically, one Ferdinand Waitito was sticking on the process. Look, all the other details we're not going to come to, but he stuck on the process and he said, I asked that this be stopped because the process by which this was done was not right. What happened? They were thrown out. The same institution throws out on the parts of governors, all of them. But the very first time that it comes in for a judge, it is allowed. It's got to look a bit stinky, don't you think? It does.
You know, we all talk about a certain character, Sherlock Holmes, and we forget that whenever Sherlock Holmes spoke, it's the author of the book, Arthur Conan Doyle, who was speaking. There is one particular phrase that is attributed to Sherlock Holmes that perhaps would bear relevance here. And is when you eliminate the impossible, whatever remains, no matter how improbable, must be the truth. Let me repeat it. When you eliminate the impossible, whatever remains, no matter how improbable, must be the truth. You see, we always assumed, and Kamoto repeated it twice, I asked it twice deliberately, and he said, yes, it was assumed that the role of the head of state would be, my word, cosmetic. It has proved to be anything but cosmetic. So the improbable, it was assumed that the president would assent. After all, after the JSC had
done its work.
Exactly. That, unfortunately, has not been the case. So what seems improbable has become the possible. So it then begs the question, am I then to assume that because of this, that this particular issue that we're now discussing, that one sees the hand of the state, or one sees the head of the head of state or the people around him in this particular matter?
So this is an executive play?
Yes. Does it then beg the question that if you were to take that assumption or you to take that view, that you're completely off the mark?
Why are you seeing that? Why are you making that assumption? You'd be seeing the benefit that the executive would derive out of this. What is that benefit?
You see, I am expanding this argument and this discussion to its nth. Okay? Who has the powers to determine that even a matter that is brought by the governors to the court does not see the light of day? Who has that sort of power? Is it the Chief Justice? Now, who is it that would benefit from a situation where, as we call it, we like the word lacuna. I never use it, but let me use it now. Okay? That you now have a stalemate. You have one arm of government
that has been rendered functionless.
It's non-functioning as we speak. Okay? The only person who can ensure that it now functions is the same executive. The JSC can do their job, but the person who actually has the last say in determining whether it functions or not is the executive. So that is where my argument is. And that's where I'm taking it. I'm looking at all scenarios and I'm saying the one consistent player who has the powers to actually change the situation, whichever way, is the executive.
You don't see, like, let's also extend this theorizing. Corruption cartels.
Yes.
Those that fight back.
Yes.
Those that do not want their cases to proceed. Those that know that their cases would require, some formation of 3-judge, 5-judge benches. Those that know that, these matters may go further than this.
Right.
They could also be playing a hand here and
they
just trying
could,
to cripple the
but you
operations
see,
of the judiciary.
What you've actually done is you've more or less said that this cartel can even hold the executive ransom. You know why I'm saying this?
It has been holding the executive ransom.
Because if
the executive has been unable to deal with this cartel.
If 41 judges were actually given the position, then it means these processes that we're talking about could be followed easier because there'd be more people who could give their attention to it. But when you reduce the numbers who could give their attention to it, and then you even cripple the one arm that has the might to do other things, then what have you done? The argument, unfortunately, no matter which way we twist it, will end up with the executive.
Right, and it doesn't really look good in terms
of...
It
doesn't. Bring in the cartels, bring in whoever you want to bring in.
It doesn't look good in terms of intentions and goodwill to actually have justice in the country. It doesn't look good, whichever way you want to look at it. Because at the end of the day, the decision then rests with you. And how you will move rests with you.
But I also want to come back and ask yourself, I mean, it is also possible that a well-meaning Kenyan just sat back and asked themselves, why? I'm tired of this nonsense. I've got to go to court.
It's also possible for it to rain
And
cheese,
say,
but we don't see that
actually
happening.
do this. No, it's possible that as a Kenyan, like, city, like we've said, a citizen can go to court and ask these questions.
Citizens.
And the judge looks at it and says, all right, so yeah, there are all these other, let's not have it ex parte, but the judge just looks at it and says, this has been argued very well. I have no reason.
But is he
I have no reason to say no.
Let me tell
I have
you.
no reason to delay this particular
every
matter.
time.
So let me throw a spanner in the works. The same way we say, the action of the Chief Justice to write to the President to tell him, this Parliament is ill-constituted, is just throwing a spanner in the works so that you can move things forward. Maybe this judge sat back and said, you know what, I can say, let's have a 3-judge bench sitting back to look at this matter and all that, but let me actually speed up this process. Let me give the orders as I'm entitled to, as is my rightful duty as a judge to do. Let me give these orders so that then we can have this conversation.
You see, Eric,
the conversation here is, maybe the judge has been sitting and wondering, so it makes sense.
Maybe he has.
Yes.
Maybe he has,
So
Eric, but you see the argument.
What I'm trying to say is I'm completely hesitant to see to give this thing a political twist.
I'm not hesitant
I'm just
at
sitting
all.
there and say, politics could have benefited from this, but maybe the decisions are not political
Eric,
at all.
It's open season here. Okay? In a situation like this, where implications, permeations, everything going whichever way. Look, when you say that the executive has been unable to rein in the cartels, you know what we're actually saying? That there's a likelihood that they're also part of the cartels. That's what it boils down to.
Yeah.
Because all the powers that we have within our constitution for the executive to exercise, and then there's a statement that they cannot exercise it. Why can they not exercise it?
So essentially saying you can't do what you're supposed to do.
Essentially, yes, you then raise all the questions. And as I said, open season, I'm allowed to take pot shots. Because in the absence of a reasonable explanation as to all these things, when the contrary to what is being presented exists, as in the powers actually do exist for something to be done, then if I take the view and the argument that I'm taking, there is reasonable avenues, there is reasonable space for me to hold that particular view.
Of the politics.
Executive. I'm not even going to politics. Executive.
This argument of the executive, remember and that's what Kamodo was also asking. If we say that the DPP can then be arm twisted or controlled by the executive to such an extent, then we also take it back to, did you read the executive's hand when DCJ Mwilu was charged?
No, I did not.
The case against the DCJ.
I did not need to see it.
The issues of her integrity being raised and being questioned.
It was appropriate that they should be raised because
that
when I read the cases, it looked like a case that went before I was waiting for the judgment, because why her of all the other judges that we had? Why her of all the other judges we have in the Court of Appeal?
Same executive hand.
And they traced it.
Looking back into, so in 2 years' time, CJ leaves. So first of all, let's start playing the game early. Same.
You see,
that was
Eric,
the argument politically.
You see, Eric, there is a chance that you can assume, and I assumed, as I'm assuming now, there are other arguments. See, I'm narrowing it down, looking at a history of things, and I'm saying, given all these things that have happened, and I'm asking the relevant question, I'm saying, the probability seems to be in this direction. And the direction I'm pointing at is the executive.
5 minutes to 8. Let's take a break on KTN Home, but the conversation continues on Spice FM. We're asking the question, what do you make of this judgment? First of all, let's just ask, should a judge be... I don't want to use the word above the law, but you know what I mean. Come on.
Should a judge be entitled to protections?
There
really?
you go. Yes, these kind of protections, when the same are not afforded to other state officers. That's a question we're asking ourselves. It's 5 minutes to 8. Yep. So, Sir Charles says it's a sick judiciary. Well, currently it's at that point where it's the Supreme Court basically is incapacitated.
We had a conversation a couple of months ago, and we talked about corruption in the judiciary, and we had a gentleman from the Service Commission here, and one of the things that we said, look, is the judiciary the bottleneck towards fighting so many of these things? And it would be no, it's not, because we're handicapped by lack of so many things, lack of resources, lack of the money that we need to operate. But when you see things like this and you hear things like this, then it is only going to set somebody's mind to the possibility that they're protecting themselves, that they protect their brothers and sisters that reside within that same core. That is actually what happened.
This is not unusual.
So it's not unusual at
no,
all.
it's not unusual in any cadre.
What we are
Policemen
saying-
protect. Everyone protects their own.
Sure, but what I'm saying
Everyone.
in this case is that if you have a judge coming out very clearly, making a ruling that seemed to have rattled people and said that, look, a case is brought against you, you are charged, step aside. That should run across board. It shouldn't matter. You know what? It should have been so seamless that when a judge is being asked to step aside, that there shouldn't have been a bump in the road. We said, okay.
In fact, it should have been automatic. Don't even be
Absolutely.
asked.
Don't even be asked.
As long as you've been charged,
Yeah.
you just know, okay, so...
It shouldn't have been a bump in the road at all. It should have just been smooth, flowing. But that's why, because it was not, now gives rise to speculation and suspicion that something amiss is up. Something else is wrong.
Having a constitutional lawyer talk to us is usually a useful thing.
I'm telling you.
All this argument was flowing very smoothly until it became apparent that the same sort of order was sought
But then blocked.
by the just not given by this same system. Now it's cronism. It's a lovely term, this cronism. There's even crony economics. Okay? This is cronism at work. Now, what in my mind seems to take center stage again, if you were to give an alternate argument, is that everything has its time and its day. Yep.
That's the time and the day.
This is the time and the day. This is the same system that gave you that reprieve. Same system has come back to do what it should have done in the first place.
As we conclude the conversation, I'd just like to throw this question out there, just for conversation's sake. Should a head of an institution as instrumental as the Law Society of Kenya act as a lawyer in such a matter? Nelson Havi, the president of the Law Society of Kenya, is a lawyer representing DCJ Mwilu in this particular case. All right? So, now, if the LSK and we've seen the LSK activism role and that thing of trying to push and understand the law, if the LSK were to sit and go to court seeking an order such as this, what would become of that kind of move?
Eric, in the recent past, we've seen...
Knowing that the president of the LSK
we've
is an
seen the
interested party in
LSK
this
functioning
particular
more as the Tower of Babel, where all you have is one shouting match after another, after another, after another. But to answer your question, it would be interesting to observe if such a thing took place and the outcomes of it.
How about a leader of the other arm of government, a leader in the Senate? Senate Minority Leader James Orengo is also a lawyer in this particular case. Questions. Good morning. It's 8 o'clock.
Spice up your life. 102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Okay, this Monday morning, Kiambu Road is still a mess, guys. We're looking at now almost 6 lanes, and people are trying to get to Mvaiga Corner. It is not happening today. There's been another terrible accident that has taken place on Thika Road today, and quite a bad one. There's another one on Outer Ring, and that's causing traffic. And so the pictures that we're seeing today are not looking good. Langata Road has joined all of this, and the jam starts from the Bomas roundabout all the way through to the Timor roundabout. Bagadi Way could be an option, but that's also moving very slowly. As you get to the Nyeri Stadium roundabout, also then onto Huru Highway out into the CBD, very, very slow. There's traffic everywhere, guys, everywhere you look. So this one is going to require some patience this Monday morning. If you do find an alternate route, we'd be happy to know about that. For now, though, it looks like everybody's going to have to sit back and take a dollop of patience with you wherever you go. Let us know. SpiceFMKE on Twitter. Talk to us also on 40127. We'll take a look and see if things heading towards the ferry Mombasa have changed when we come back.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
2.5 after 8. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Let's begin the hour with the day's proverb. CT.
All right. You know, even when, if, perhaps, maybe, you find that the waters are calm, it does not mean that there are no crocodiles.
Even if, when, or whatever.
Well, don't think there are no crocodiles, even if the water is calm. That is really what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Are the waters calm in school, Ndu?
The waters seem not to be so calm in schools right now. What we're getting is that there are reports of a serious dilemma that will be faced by schools on how to discipline learners as teachers and parents reject the use of the cane to punish errant students. Where has all this come from? Last week we heard from the CS Ministry of Education, Professor George Magoha, that he would see the return of corporal punishment in school as a way to deter errant students. And of course, it took everybody by storm, and everybody had an opinion about how this should actually work. And it would see that there would be some parents who said, yes, absolutely, it's the way to go. There would be some teachers who said, no, we can't do this. Now, the teachers have come out very clearly and said, we're not going to do this. It would not make sense for us. The reasons as to why, we'll look at that in a short while. But he said, and I'm going to just quote what he said, I may appear old school, according to Magoha, but I think we are at a time when we need to discuss how we can bring sanity in our schools and maybe bring the cane on board once more. We talked about this a little bit last week and looked at the reactions that we got from around the country. But then over the last 2 days, the teachers have weighed in on this and said this is not the way that they would like to go. According to the Act, and I think it's important for us to keep using that as a reference, no pupils should be subjected to torture and cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment in any manner, whether physical or psychological. This means that in order to actualize the proposal by the CS, the Act must be amended to allow teachers to instill physical discipline on including caning. Now, it emerged that teachers can only take instructions from their employer, the TSC, on the use of corporal punishment. So, apparently there's a balance of power between there's a delicate balance of power between the TSC and the Ministry of Education, and it's making it difficult to streamline school operations, including instilling discipline. Now, when the ministry says this on one side, teachers on the other side have said no. It's interesting because it's not necessarily that they refused the Act itself, but it's a way of elevating the tiff that there is existing between the Ministry of Education and the Teachers Service Commission. Now, the directive by Magoha, even if it were feasible, may not be implemented unless it is issued by the TSC. So the teachers essentially have said no. Regardless, we are not for this. And since we are the ones who implement and establish the operation of what happens in schools, we are not going to go with this.
This is a case of a sibling telling the other sibling, I'm not going to do it unless mom or dad tells me. But you very well know that if dad has told sibling or aunt to tell you, the dad can still come and tell you directly. So is the union, the National Union of Teachers, arguing against this, just saying, no, we are not going to listen to Magoha and what he's saying, or are they saying that we are principally opposed to the
union-
reintroduction of caning?
The union
Process
has said...
it's process. TSC can come and tell them if
Sure.
their law is amended.
However, but the union, and that's okay, as you say that, the KNUT has clearly said that they are against the reintroduction of caning in schools, because what could happen, that they could precipitate unrest in society, and they don't want this. He said that the ban on caning was not a Kenyan agenda, adding that it was an international agenda implemented through the Children's Act. So he said that new ways must be developed to tame indiscipline. Caning is not the solution to go ahead and do this. If children burn schools because they want to go home, then abolish all boarding schools and have quality day schools across the country where they can go back to their parents every evening, and that would be a solution to this.
That's another question actually to raise, because the TSC the NAT has raised that issue.
Yes, they have.
Yes.
Abolish boarding.
Yes. In fact, while we're at it, why don't we just abolish jails?
Have day jails.
No,
Community
Where
service.
you can go to jail during the day and
week
then go
jails,
home.
go home. Yes, that sort of thing. I mean, since we are in the process of revolutionizing this whole system.
Why are you putting those two together? Boarding schools and jail.
So you've already kind of precipitated
Like really,
this by saying
City.
that
Take it to its
boarding
logical
school is
conclusion.
jail.
Yes, take it to its logical conclusion. Because you see, a complex situation that requires a complex approach is being given simplistic solutions. It isn't the caning that will sort it out. It isn't the day schools that will sort it out. It isn't just the training of teachers and the remuneration. It's a combination of all the things that ail this particular segment, this particular branch of our system in this country. Now, we've had commissions that have been set up and they've given recommendations, very solid, based on reality, based on facts. Can we talk about how some of these recommendations can actually be put into play so that the issue that ail this particular part of our society is actually rectified? Instead of a statement cannot be a solution. Neither can a denial of that particular statement be a solution. Not possible. So, if we want to have a realistic discussion about this, then let's talk about what ails the education sector and what it is that needs to be done. If it means getting rid of the unions, that also won't solve the problem if you get rid of the unions. You get rid of the Kenya National Union of Teachers, it won't solve the problem.
Maybe it could. Just like you're saying, it's a complex of...
It's a complex situation.
It could be very many things. So first of all, we
Yes.
abolish boarding and we remove unions and we introduce caning. Those three could be the solution. Together.
If we're talking about possibilities in the theoretical sense of the word, yes, Eric, it's a possibility.
But in
Together.
reality,
No. People who understand...
What in your estimation is the problem in our education sector?
It doesn't... The education sector and the problems around it cannot be discussed as problems of the education sector.
Now, looking at it from, not from, the quality of education and all, but from the student unrest angle. What does the student unrest represent?
It has nothing to do with their going to school. Their going to school is just a collection point where all these ideas are given an opportunity to ferment. Ask yourself, what sort of people do you put in charge of these students? How well do you train them? What sort of mindset do you have? Do you have a majority of people in that particular sector presenting themselves as teachers? People who chose that profession and wanted to teach, or people who ended up teachers because that was the opportunity they were given? The education sector is not just about teachers, schools, students. It's about the homes where these people come from. That's what I'm saying. It's complex. It's about the image that the society that they live in presents and gives as to what teachers are and the pecking order in which teachers fall in. It is about the examples that are set within the country and which the people who would be teachers and would be students are exposed to, and which they pretend not to espouse, but which they actually practice. So when I say it's complex, I mean it. It is complex. It isn't a simple this or the other. It is all these things, and then asking yourself, what do you prioritize? Children will go to school, but children will be taught. I would argue, start with the people who are going to teach your children, the people whom you leave with the responsibility of looking after your children. You've heard me saying this on many occasions, in local parentis. The people who are there, start with that. Make sure that you have the sort of individuals who will give you a certain guarantee. currently constituted, expect very little guarantees.
Why?
Because you have people who are disgruntled. And when you have people who are permanently working in a disgruntled manner, what they're going to do is transmit that disgruntlement to the people they teach. They will not be as interested as they ought to be. They will not give the time that they should. When people tell you teaching is a vocation, my friend, it is a vocation. It's not just a career. Because it requires more than just you going to class and writing notes and doing this and marking books. It involves you parenting. It involves you looking after the lives of these people and helping shape it. Not easy. It is not simple.
Sure, but I think there's a general reluctance or hesitation to actually look at the heart of the matter and really what the problem is. Because the thing is that, look, if you have an errant child, an errant learner, whacking them on one day is not going to sort the problem out. If anything, we've seen in many cases that you beat a child, you beat that, and continuously you beat that problem into them.
They'll get used to the beating.
And then exactly. So they get used to the pain, and then what are you going to do after they've gotten used to it? And they know that, all right, I can continue in this manner, and all I'll get is a beating and I'll be done. And I think I do agree that what needs to happen is that there really needs to be an overhaul of the intent. Because what are we trying to do here with an education system is to, at the end of the day, bring out learners who have grasped the subject matter, but at the same time, been versed in things like critical thinking, etc., etc. That's what you're trying to do. So it's not about buildings and books. There's a lot more in the value that we're talking about. So to me, this dealing with caning, or should it not be brought back, it seems to be a slapstick measure to something that can actually be dealt with a lot deeper than just, beating and saying, okay, as well, we're dealing with the issue. Is it going to stop schools from burning down? No. Is it going to stop children from rioting when exam time comes and they don't want to go to class? No. They'll be beaten, they'll forget the pain, and if they have that inherently in them, that's what they're going to continue doing. So I think we need to look at the deeper issues, whereby you can instill some kind of discipline, and learning continues, as opposed to using, quick, instant measures and thinking that that's going to bring about a permanent solution. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't. Whereby they say, yes, we've heard all the quotes, biblical or not, spare the rod and spoil the child, etc., which is definitely understood. But if you have a problem where you're looking at things like burning down schools, where you're looking at children running away from school, where you're looking at children coming to school on drugs and drink, it's a lot more than caning a child is going to sort. A lot more.
And that a lot more has been agreed upon. 3 task forces have been formed over time by the government to look at school unrest. Those task forces have not only just said, reintroduce caning, they've said, look at the entire ecosystem of teaching. The thing is, some of those task force recommendations are implemented in some way by the government, others are not implemented at all by the government. So you still end up with the same issue over and over and over again. Now, the union here is, maybe it's just a reporting issue, but the head of the NAT is basically saying, first of all, there's a law. But something fundamental that he says, when we were abolishing corporal punishment, it was because we were going by global best practice. Mm-hmm. What is happening globally and what has been done, what has been studied by educationists and psychologists and all, and on the impact of corporal punishment on students. And there's a reason why we decided, let's abolish corporal punishment and put it in law. That corporal punishment is now outlawed. So if we go back there, we're basically just looking back at all those years. Everybody else who has talked about this globally and said, you guys don't know, we are going back into this. So there's that argument. And I wish he stuck by that argument, not just going into, if you want to do this, let's remove boarding schools, which is another conversation that now comes in. Is abolishing boarding schools going to have an impact on the psyche of the students? Is it going to make them, feel that they belong now to school, that they will not have an avenue? They'll have nothing to burn. They cannot burn a library or classroom. They only burn dormitories.
You think that libraries and dormitories are only burnt at night? What makes you think it can't be burnt in the daytime?
Because it hasn't happened yet. And day schools have not had this kind of,
If you have day schools, it will have an impact. But as you say correctly, it introduces yet another discussion. Why did we think of boarding schools to begin with?
Yep.
What
do boarding schools do?
Yes, what purpose do they actually serve? So has it outlived its purpose?
Well, I mean, the original idea of a boarding school was to have the children residing in the center of, learning, right? So that they could do more in terms of studying and work like that, right? It was to keep them within that area at once so that they could focus and have more targeted learning. Now, has that changed? Did you find that children who were in boarding school perform better than those who came and went on a daily basis? You'd have to ask yourself all of those questions and start to look at, now the nitty-gritty of all of the issues and say, all right, so being in boarding school, did that begin to harbor some kind of behavior, negative behavior? Were they now in a place where they could come together and now form and cement this bad behavior? Is that the case? Or was it still pursuing or achieving its purpose of having children being able to be more targeted and focused in their learning because they were able to reside in the center of teaching? Could you say that? Has it moved from that and has become a den of fermenting bad behavior and then because of that, abolish them? Because that's what we're looking at here. At the end of the day, this issue of caning came about because the CS said, this bad behavior that we are seeing.
Maybe we should.
This burning down of schools, this behavior that we're seeing, children coming to school, drugs and alcohol. Maybe we should reintroduce caning and it should sort them out.
Let's bring in the Union Secretary, the Secretary General of the Kenya National Union of Teachers, who's also a nominated Member of Parliament. Wilson Sosion joins us on the line now. Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
Welcome to the Situation Room and Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you too.
Now, but Association, you've been quoted in various media having spoken about this issue that was raised by the CS for Education, Professor Magoha, on the cause for the unrest in schools. And what he was saying, I mean, one of the solutions that he was just talking about, thinking off the top of his head, was maybe we should reintroduce corporal punishment. And you've been quoted saying, no. That one is an absolute no. Is this quote attributed to you true?
I've not been quoted. I have said it before media and in a general meeting. The fact of the matter is there was sufficient reason to eliminate corporal punishment in our school system in line with the global commitments, and now we have the Children's Act 2011, which really prohibits caning. And over time, circumstances and situations have changed, and children are now more and more aware of their rights. And taking teachers back to cane learners, it really is not the best of things. We cannot do it at the moment when students are becoming violent. You can see they've perfected the art of arson, and they're banning only dormitories. They're not banning schools and classrooms. They're not banning dorms. They're not banning libraries. And after staying away for 10 months, a lot must have happened, and it is manifesting itself. Currently, you can see they're banning schools, and they're even killing. They've killed watchmen. I've just read also that a head student has been killed because he was able to report the strategies to ban dormitories. So really, reverting to using the cane or corporal punishment is the wrong thing to do, and as teachers, we are not going to go back there. And if the caning has to be reintroduced, then let the law enforcers do the caning. And because the errant students are engaged in super criminal activities of arson and killing, they should just be dealt with criminally. So really, for us, we don't think we'll accept to go back to the caning, because if teachers are allowed to cane the students, then these students will begin killing teachers. They definitely will. And I don't think that is a side to wait and enjoy
and witness.
And witness as a citizen, students killing teachers.
So,
they're not ready.
What in your reading and understanding is the cause of this student unrest?
Well, I don't have any empirical information on the real cause, but you can see what is happening over time. Using simple psychology, you can deduce exactly what the students are doing. They are banning dormitories. Why are they not banning classrooms? They are banning dormitories. There's something about the dormitories. Either they're not comfortable, they are congested, or they want to go home. And this has gone on for years. Banning of dormitories. If you hear banning of a school, it is dormitory. Something is being communicated to us that these students no longer desire to go through boarding education, boarding schools. And I think it is time as a country we accept that we don't need boarding schools anymore. It's time we abolish them so that the learners can have time to be at home and there can be a balance of child raising by the household and the school. After 5, let all the children go back to their families and let parents, and we have seen in the last 10 months, Kenyans have failed in parenting at their family level. And then they cannot endure to keep children at home. And some Kenyan families or parents dump their children in boarding schools as early as grade 4, and so that they can while and have their free time. So I think it is something fundamental that needs in terms of reforms. And in fact, the reform that should have been undertaken is not CBC. We should have reconfigured our school system so that we phase out boarding schools, which number one is unnecessary, is expensive, we don't need it, and allow now learners to operate from their homes to schools, and we ensure that we have state-of-the-art day schools, so that then we can have the parents and teachers raising the children together, rather than forcing teachers to act as foster parents, like policemen at night in boarding schools, trying to discipline learners who are truants, and trying to take over responsibilities that are not theirs. Even as we talk of BBI and trying to rediscover the national values of this country, it cannot be if the family does not play a central role in upbringing of children at an early age. And according to me, Kenya should join the global north, Europe and North America, where day schools are the real thing, and there are no boarding schools, and learners
go home on a daily basis.
From home to school.
Wilson, I hear you, and I think there's a lot that can be discussed here, especially now when it comes to now the abolishing of boarding schools, as you've mentioned. But this caning came about as a result of some of the uprisings that we've seen coming from the student body, right? There's been misbehavior. The CS said this as so. How do you feel that those issues can be addressed apart from this?
No, we cannot react
abolishing
emotionally.
of boarding schools.
We cannot react emotionally. We can't react emotionally. We must address a complex phenomenon of this nature in a very meticulous way, and inviting our skills of psychology and the necessary reforms that we need to put in place. For now, any child involved in arson should be criminalized. But we cannot be so emotional that we ask teachers to cane them. That is not a solution. We don't handle children using emotion. We handle children using systematic and meticulous reasoning and planning. And I've been asked what really would be the solution, and we need a lasting solution. I am not interested in the quick emotional first aid, but looking at the circumstances that are being returned from schools, that students are banning schools. I've just read in the social media right now, Stereo Boys in Kisumu dormitory was banned last night. A head student was killed for reporting. Now you can see this state, and it looks like it's taking a very complicated trajectory at the moment. It is time we reconsider. Probably we need to give.
Can I ask how widespread this mayhem is? I'm calling it mayhem because that's what it seems to be. How widespread is it across the country?
You are in the media and you are listening and you are seeing.
Actually, I do have an idea, and I'm saying it is not widespread. We have isolated cases of schools that we've had reports.
Whether it is widespread or not, there are reported cases, and that is why you called me, and that's why you are interviewing me, because there is a problem.
There is a problem, we accept, but the reason why I'm raising the question, if you could just pause for a second and listen to what I'm asking, Mrs. Osion.
And
it's this.
Fundamentally, if we look at what has been happening over time, say from 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, how many dormitories have been banned? How many? And what is the cost in terms of billions? This latest behavior by students, and I want you to invite your patience, psychology, attention, and carry your mind. Look at that watchman that has been killed by students. Look at those teachers who have been brutally assaulted by teachers. Look at that head student who was killed by students. And you can see the art of killing is now coming after arson of schools. So it is a very, very serious affair. Even if one dormitory is banned in the country, it is banning. If one student is killed, it is killing. So, and a message is being communicated. We are in Kenya.
Yeah, we should listen to it.
We live with them. And therefore, from the educational perspective, which indeed you have asked me about the solution, let us reconfigure our education system so that in the long run, because we're even talking in the BBI, we want to rediscover the values, national values of this country. We cannot do it when you are taking children out of family and out of household and dumping them in boarding schools.
Let's expand this debate once we take this break, because now you've introduced. So let's reconfigure our education system. One of the ways that you're saying is let's abolish boarding schools. That's one argument. Let's also look at what else has been proposed by 3 task forces that have been formed by the government. What implementation of those task force recommendations has been made? As we take this break and come back into this conversation, 28 minutes after 8, we are having a conversation with the Secretary General of the Kenya National Union of Teachers, Wilson Sossion, who is also a nominated member of Parliament. We are talking about the unrest in schools. What's the long-lasting solution to this? We'll be back shortly. We are live on KTN Home. We are live on Spice FM, and we are also live streaming. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM. "24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM. The weather with Spice
All right, the sun shining in Nairobi this morning, 13 degrees and mostly cloudy. However, we'll see highs of 27 today. Highs of 24 in Nyeri at 13. Highs of 30 in Nakuru, mostly sunny at 15 degrees. We're looking at highs of 26 in Eldoret. It's 6 degrees and currently quite chilly for an Eldoret morning. 21 degrees and sunny conditions in Kisumu, going to highs of 32. We're looking at Kakamega, is mostly sunny at 18, highs of 33, highs of 32 in Mombasa, and highs of 31 in Malindi. We're going to look at highs of 28 in Kampala today, mostly sunny at 20 at the moment. Dar es Salaam continues to rain this morning at 26, going to highs of 32. It's also raining in Joburg at 17, highs of 23. The rain showers are also coming down in Lagos at 24, going to highs of 33, and mostly sunny conditions in Kinshasa at 22, going to highs of 33, coming down to lows of 23.
Spice FM. Spice up your life.
Did you wonder where everybody else was last week? Well, now everybody is on the roads and there's traffic everywhere you look. Where are we going to count? There was a long line going towards the ferry Mombasa today, going towards Likoni and Tongwe. That was very slow and the lines still continue. They're inching down a little bit, but still continues there. We're looking at traffic back in Nairobi now on Mombasa Road, Langata Road into the city, Bagavi Way towards Valley Road, Gong Road traffic started at Gong Town. Kiambu Road, 5 lanes and counting, and trying to join Muthaiga Corner and then get onto the Thika Superhighway. We've seen a flurry of accidents on Thika Road today, and it's been an absolute mess. Looking for a manic Monday, that was today. Hopefully you can get where you're going without too much drama right now. It looks like there needs a lot of patience sitting in this Monday morning traffic. We were looking at the bypasses as an easy route to get to and from the city. You might want to use that, but then you might get stuck on your out. Let's keep a look and see how that changes. Spice FMKE on Twitter. Talk to us or text on 40127.
28 minutes to 9 o'clock. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, broadcasting on KTN Home, on Spice FM and online. Joining us on the line is Member of the National Assembly and Secretary General of the Kenya National Union of Teachers, Wilson Sosion. In the room is Eric Latif, Nduoko, and Siti Muga.
Mr. Sosion, from the time we got our independence, we've had very many commissions on education. And what they've done is look into the education sector and made proposals as to the steps that should be taken. Here we are with a new situation that we've never seen before. As you say correctly, dormitories being burnt, children being violent to the point where, apart from attacking teachers, we hear reports of people having been killed. And even in the recent past, we've had bodies that have taken the time to actually study the education system and made recommendations. Now, the question I want to ask now is, the recommendations that were made, were they all put into play? Were they applied? The situations that were pointed out that ailed the education sector, were they rectified?
The problem we have is that in the global world and the evolving world of business, in recent times, education has been identified as the frontier of business worth trillions of dollars. And therefore, most of the policies that are coming to education are business-oriented and are meant to support business ventures. And therefore, there has been no commitment by many governments to take into consideration serious professional advice from commissions, and in fact, commissions are beginning to lose value in this era where education is seen as a very, very serious frontier of business. Of course, you talk of what you've done in Kenya in terms of commissions since independence, Ominde of 1964, which came up with a new education system for the independent Kenya, and the 7423, and which indeed, in terms of quality, remains one of the best that Kenya has ever had. And the Gashati of 76 that looked at mainly the teacher training and addressing the teacher needs of this country. Mackay of 1981 that came up with 844, and 844 was properly piloted professionally, and universities were active in research and looking at the new education system before it was rolled out. And 844 was rolled out after proper piloting for 4 years. And Kamunga of 1988, that brought cost sharing.
86 actually.
Yes, and Ticket of David Koech of 1989, in fact, the best commission that ever sat and that gave the best recommendation. In fact, those who study in universities, the best reference report is that of David Koech of 1989. Douglas Odhiambo of 2012, which was overspiked by a lot of ambition on how to cause artificial change in our education system. And I remember we voted it 55 to 25 at KICD. And thereafter, we have seen several flagship reforms in the education, like the laptop, which was emotionally brought as a manifesto of Jubilee in 2013 from nowhere, without consultation from the sector. It has become a white elephant, a mystery, a shame in the sector that it has not been properly implemented. We have seen the CBC, when teachers questioned the quality of training, they were interdicted because there are a lot of intrinsic businesses in all this. And we have seen the promotion of privatization in education. And you see, privatization goes with boarding. There cannot be business unless the private schools or entities are boarding in nature. And so we are seeing a lot. And these are the biggest obstacles and challenges. However much we come up with the best recommendations, the ability, capacity, the spirit and commitment of government to implement is very negligible. Because
so where did we go wrong, sir? Because if I look at the trajectory and all the plans that we've had,
education as business, we are not looking at education.
If I leave the business aspect of it, just pause the business aspect of it for a while, sir, and consider. Schools didn't start getting burnt in large numbers yesterday. This has been progressive. The problems we've had in school, it's been progressive. What attempts have we seen being made to stem this thing before it got to this place now where it's now a downpour? It's no longer just a drizzle.
Let me return the question to you.
Please.
When students started banning schools in 2015 and we raised a lot of alarm.
Beyond alarms, what else did you do?
Was it ever addressed? It has never been addressed.
A task force was formed in 2016, wasn't there?
The march we saw was public relations and massaging programs and keeping students a bit busy, then sit for national exams, forget about the year, move into another year. To get back to the same, the problem that is bedeviling the sector has not been addressed as a major issue. I remember in 1998, when banning of schools started, there was a national conference at Kenyatta University that looked at it. It brought the churches, it brought different stakeholders to openly debate. Education is a public good, and therefore it is an entity that whenever there are extraordinary issues, we should be able to open up to the public and at least see whether we can have a national conference on the same where we discuss and debate very exhaustively. Nowadays, we see national conferences of education takes 1 hour. It begins at 1 p.m. and ends at 2 p.m. And we tell Kenyans that we have had a national conference. You are in Kenya, we have seen it. You, the media, you have been beaming it. You beam it for 1 hour and it's a national conference. I think we have refused to openly and extensively debate the issues that are in the education sector. And right now we are only discussing a segment and we are discussing an instant of action. But we need to look through education from early childhood all through to university.
But as I hear you, Bonasation,
shutting down. Universities are shutting down.
True. And you're pinning this down. You're pinning this down, Bonasation, on majorly the fact that there is a lot of commercial interest that has infiltrated government decision making, and that is what is influencing the kind of decisions that are made at government level, at policy level. How do you reverse this? How do you, for example, as one of the leaders in this sector, Secretary General of the Union, you sit in the National Assembly, you've got a lot of influence.
It is all of us to speak about it. You've invited me to this show. You've given me a forum. I've said it. And I've said it everywhere. And until and unless we come out to openly debate and allow professionals to take center stage. Let me ask you one simple question. If we are talking about review of curriculum in this country and globally, there is a professional sequence of doing it. This is the moment that the universities should be doing a lot of research, releasing papers, designing training modules, and it is not happening. Universities are shut out. How would you talk of reforming education without even involving the universities very deeply, vigorously, extensively, and competently? There are a lot of issues. We are not doing things right in this country. And when you see learners waking up to ban dormitory, and the other day, when COVID struck this country, we suddenly realized that we have over-congested our learners in our schools, kama magunia, in the name of access, 100% transition, and everything. The infrastructure is not ready. Probably even in some dormitories that are triple deckers, and you are putting learners in triple deckers, congesting them like gunias in dingy dormitories. Maybe that's why they're banning. The question is, where these students are sleeping, are they comfortable? Are they? Why are they banning?
So the stakeholders in education, Mr. Sosion, the stakeholders in education are educationists, and teachers are part and parcel of this. Does this not bode negatively on the leadership of the teachers, such as yourself, in the situation getting where it is? How has this happened with not being so vigorous and vibrant?
No, my friend, look here. Call a spade a spade. The reason why we are going wrong is because we are refusing to speak the truth. We have a serious matter here at hand.
And what is the truth, Mr. Sosion?
I've given you a scientific fact. From COVID-19 and COVID experience, we have realized that we have congested our schools.
That's true.
And even to achieve social distance has been difficult. One of the areas of congestion is dormitories, and that one you should accept it, even as needed.
So then children should not have gone back to school in that condition.
Pardon?
Are you saying children should not have gone back to school in that condition?
Are
you saying children should not have gone back to school in that condition of crowded dormitories, for example, if this realization only came about because of COVID-19?
When Rwanda was able to build 22,000 classrooms between March and October, do we sit as a country and consider that one area that is likely to pose a lot of challenges are dormitories? And if dormitories were going to be a challenge, was it ever addressed? Did we consider?
But you were the one. You were one of the people, Mr. Sosion, who said that we were ready to go back to school at the time schools were opening. You said it not once. You said it several times that we are ready to go back. And now that has changed.
Can we have a proper trajectory in this discussion? We are pointing out that this could be one of the problems. It was not addressed. And that's the truth, it was not addressed. Don't ask me why I did not deal with it, because I'm part of the sector. I am not the Minister for Education, and I don't have leadership position on behalf of government.
It is true you're a leader, and the things you say are leadership statements. That's how they're taken.
Pardon?
I said, when you make statements, we take them as leadership statements that are being made.
Make them over and over again. There are a lot of things that we need to look at to make our children comfortable and to make our education system work and to reconfigure it to serve the best interests of children and the best interests of the country.
Mr. Sosion, we're actually just seeking clarity in these matters. That's why we're asking the questions. The idea is not to necessarily put you in a tight corner. We just want to know, because...
No, you're not putting me at a tight corner. You're asking genuine questions, and I think I've answered you. And the fundamental truth is, we are in the year 2021, and we've experienced various challenges in education over time. It is time we face them squarely. One of them is the management of children and the type of our school system that we have, the boarding system. That is, in fact, if you do a survey among all the children who are in boarding, whether they would like to study from home or be in school, you will be surprised that we are wasting time over 50 years after independence, doing unnecessary things and keeping children in boarding when they can as well commute from home. And indeed, if we are talking about drug abuse and all this substance abuse and the whole of it, then this is where we need the parents. Let this kid between 5 in the evening and 8 in the morning spend that time with parents. Then the rest of the time is for teachers to conduct their teaching, learning, and other forms of learning between 8 and 5. If we accept to go that direction, in the long run, we will be raising our children in the right manner, and we'll be bequeathing this country the right education.
Mr. Sosion, in your opinion, is the training of our teachers adequate? Training and remuneration of our teachers, is it adequate for the tasks that they are required, that is required of them?
Don't be reckless and careless that you think teachers must be trained to be parents. We are not trained to be parents.
Sir, it isn't being reckless. The moment you take a child to school, you have given that teacher the mandate of acting like a parent, whether you like it or not. It's just a fact.
We are trained to be pedagogues, but I think we have gone beyond to play the role of parents, because we do most of the work which parents indeed should have done. I would say the training of Kenyan teachers is one of the best, and Kenyan teachers have returned the best outcomes in education. If you look at the global competitive index of Kenya in terms of quality education, we are number 1 in Africa, and in access. That tells you the Kenyan teachers have done very well in terms of delivering teaching. And you look at the global teacher competition, the global teacher of the year is from Kenya. African Union teacher of the year for 2 consecutive years are from Kenya. That tells that we have the best teachers. But
no, those are individual efforts that have stood out. Are teachers recompensed adequately for the tasks as well as their training? I'm asking the question again, Mr. Sosion.
But let us not convert our teachers to play parental roles so that parents can have time.
Mr. Sosion, I don't understand. You cannot take your child to school and have somebody oversee their work and then say they don't have a parental role. How is that possible?
Take your child to school and have the teacher parenting into the night, and every night, daytime, every day. No. The work of the teacher is to teach. And I think we must strike a balance.
Teachers are not well compensated, Mr. Sosion. If they were well compensated, your union wouldn't push for all these pay increases that you're constantly pushing for.
The union would not, the teachers would not be threatening to go on strike in a fresh pay row as they're doing today.
I think he hasn't answered. But Sosion, there's a separate question here, and this is now beyond the role of teachers either being as parents or not. There's the other question, the part B of this question, about teacher remuneration. Do you think teachers are adequately recompensed to be able to perform their job happily?
Now, before I get down to that, because I think you're introducing another dimension that probably is out of context.
It's actually the same dimension, because without teachers, there is no one to teach in schools. They are a composite part of the education problem and issue.
Let's hear you, Sosion.
Structured engagement. Let's have a structured engagement. The other issue of the balance. What is the role of parents in raising children in our school system? What really is the role of parents? That's a big question that all of us must ask. In fact, those of us who have been teachers have ended up parenting children, stepping in to play the role of the parents. There must be a balance. That's the truth. So that teachers, we do not have exaggerated expectations of teachers doing teaching and learning and going beyond to step into the shoes of the parents. Number 2, you've asked about remuneration. The teachers of Kenya, I think at the moment they are fairly remunerated, and from the balance of engagement between us and government, we have been able to push and put in place the framework for their remuneration, for their negotiations, and those engagements are ongoing. And I don't think this has any bearing in terms of what is happening at the moment. And what we are insisting is that the load of teachers working at night, supervising children at night, doing procurement, and doing jobs that probably are not their core mandate as teachers is something that must be offloaded at the moment. And we must fight that for them.
Okay, Wilson, you've talked about the fact that, we need to look at certain things, right? And do you think that it require, and you say the system needs to be changed, who is part of this system? Who makes up this system that needs to now give attention to change within the education system to change? Who is involved here?
All of us. All of us. Education does not belong to government. It doesn't belong to the minister alone. It belongs to all of us. For example, we are in this debate, in this talk show. This talk show is not a government program. It is a media program. Kenyans are listening. We are all participating. We are all triggering debate. We are all introducing new things. And we are subjecting them to debate. Those are our own opinions. And somebody somewhere must collect all these, and there must be an open dialogue process with the government, so that we follow necessary and needed reform as it unfolds. So the responsibility of facilitating this change rests with the government of the Republic of Kenya, which is created by the Constitution.
Thank you very much. Wilson Sosion, thank you very much for speaking to us today. Wilson is a Member of Parliament and the Secretary General of the Kenya National Union of Teachers. We'll be speaking with you again in coming days to advance this conversation further, especially on this one of abolition of boarding schools. I think this is an interesting debate. Asante sana for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Asante. 8 minutes to 9. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Thank you very much to our audience on KTN Home who are with us every weekday morning, 7 a.m. to about this time, coming up to 9. You can join the conversation on Spice FM 97.7 in Malindi, Nyeri 90.9, 96.7 in Eldoret, Nakuru is 96.0, 102.5 in Kisumu, 87.9 in Mombasa, and 94.4 in Nairobi.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Seven minutes to 9.
Done right.
So,
94.4 Spice
of boarding schools. That's an interesting one. And his argument is, look, let there be a clear balance between parenting and teaching, where students also get time to spend with their parents, not sending them off to boarding school for 3 months, and then they come home for just a couple of weeks, and then they're going back to boarding school. Is boarding school that bad?
It's being presented as though children are sent to boarding school at birth. Okay?
Well, some are sent to boarding school close to birth.
No.
I mean, come on.
Look.
But no sooner has a child learned how to tie their shoelaces off boarding.
That's actually a rarity. It is true, but it is a rarity. When someone talks about abolishing boarding schools and demonizing boarding schools and trying to give the impression that the existence of boarding schools is what propagates and perpetrates the ills we've seen, that is it's a diversionary discussion, because it moves away from the discussion we should be having about the root causes of the problems that exist in school. People look at the students and they say students, then they look at the parents. I keep bringing it back to the teachers because they forget the influence that teachers have on the learning environment and how early and how strong this influence is and how persistent this influence is.
True.
And that you think of only the good influence, it can also be negative.
Absolutely. I mean, and I think there are several indicators to this. All you have to do is listen to, look, children were out of school for 9 months, 10 months, right? Children have been in school for a month, going to 5 weeks now. Students are already coming home. Just simple indicators. And everything that you say to a child, the response is, my teacher said.
Yes.
My teacher asked. My teacher insisted that it be this way. So who's the person that they're listening to when they're in the school session? Who is the person that they're listening to being influenced by the most?
The teacher.
In the adult world, it's the teacher. I don't think we can run away from that reality when it comes to education.
I agree with what Wilson is saying, that there's a message here being passed, and well, we can try and decipher this message for very many different ways. But the message here is being passed. Students in boarding schools are the ones who are mostly acting this way. Over time, even from the 90s. Like you've asked yourself, City, why are those students not burning classrooms? Why are they not burning the dining hall? Why is it that this arson happens in the boardings? In the dormitories, in boarding schools? Why is it that we are seeing this unrest mostly in boarding schools? Why are we not seeing rioting or such kind of unrest in day schools? This could be a message.
It's called opportunity. In a day school, what you do is spend time in class. There are times for breaks, and then you go home.
All right, when you're done with class, you're gone.
In boarding schools, when you are out of class, you're still within the school compound. Opportunity. The opportunity is there. But the point I wanted to actually get across is there are criminal elements in society. Okay? Maybe the traits get to be seen early. And when you are addressing criminal elements within a school, you're addressing what it is that is making them seem to explode. Because this one is not even an expansion, it's an explosion. Why are we seeing it? It's like criminal activities have been normalized in schools. Why is that trend growing? Because if it's growing, now then you have to ask the question, who could put a halt to it?
Society.
No. In a school setting, who could put a halt to it?
Well, the school administration could put a halt to it.
Yes.
Okay? Now, there's a school administration here and across the country where this is happening. So it's clearly not maybe because of mismanagement.
No. You see, I'm going back to what my argument that I brought earlier on.
What could put a halt to it is understanding the reason why this is. And that's what the Sosion is saying.
And who is the
message?
And the person who is in the school who could do this is who? The teacher.
Is the teacher. And the person who's at home who could also do this is a parent. We cannot divorce the parent from this. We cannot divorce the entire society. That's why I said society.
One doesn't divorce the parent. The parents, you can't escape. You are the parent. The alternate parent that we're talking about here happens to be the teacher. It's just a fact you can't run away from, no matter how much you twist it.
That's true.
And in a boarding school, that role is even greater. Now, if you feel that this is not a role you want, then don't send your child to a boarding school.
You have the choice.
No one is forced to send a child to a boarding school. Now, the question I was asking about remuneration, adequately equipping the teachers, it's a question I've asked even of our security forces, because there's this task you want someone to perform. But have you given them the tools to do what it is that you want them to do? Now, where the issue of parents come in is, do the parents accord the teachers? Yes, the responsibility is given to them. But do they accord them the respect and the authority that is required to carry out the duties that they have? And I would say no.
The empowerment of the teacher.
No. The parents' role, as it comes in, that empowerment, if anything, teachers have been disempowered. Yes. So you have someone with a huge responsibility, no powers. What do you think is going to happen?
They take a back seat and they'll say, okay.
Yes.
Come Mbaya. And Mbaya becomes Mbaya.
It really becomes
really
Mbaya.
becomes Mbaya.
Yes.
That's the truth.
This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. We thank you very much for joining us this and every weekday morning. The conversations continue into the next hour. So you've heard from Wilson Sosion, abolish boarding schools, address the issue of student unrest. There's the other element as well, the commercial interests that have infiltrated and permeated. And that one I agree with him 100%. I think, and I see that as well, that many of the policy decisions that are made in the education sector are influenced by commercial interest, not public interest, commercial interest. The proliferation of private schools, and like he said, a good business in school will have the boarding element in it. Something to ponder. Good morning. It's now 9 o'clock.
Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, we're traffic. Traffic on Langata Road. This is spilling over from right around the Bomas there, and then coming out from higher up there on Langata Road and then coming down towards the junction, out towards Timor roundabout. Very, very slow today. Traffic started at Ngong Town this morning from Ngong Road and not looking pretty clear up until now. It's looking a little bit better in Mombasa if we're going to step out of the city for now. Getting to the ferry now has eased up, and that line has drastically reduced. It's looking better. There have been too many accidents on Thika Road today, folks. People are not taking it easy at all. The traffic is moving very slowly, but at the same time, folks are moving fast enough to have considered accidents. Yeah? Kiambu Road then joining Thika Road, also slow. Traffic continues there as well. So we're looking at a crazy morning. Mombasa Road moving very slowly all the way from Mlolongo now until the Nyeri Stadium roundabout. Very slow. Not moving as quickly as we'd like it. Tell us what you see. Stuck somewhere, let us know that as well. Spice of MKE on Twitter. Text us 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
2:30 after 9. The conversation continues. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. So, as we begin this hour, let's hear today's proverb. CT.
Right on. Don't think there are no crocodiles just because the water is calm.
Don't think there are no crocodiles just because the water is calm.
Yes.
So even in that boarding school, where there has been no unrest yet,
there could be
crocodiles.
Or even in the day school.
Even in the day schools.
Yes, there could be something.
Well, there have been many instances of unrest in day schools. Just that they happen in a different way. They just don't burn it, but they do things. Okay. So, Bonamuga. The president had several meetings over the weekend in Sagana. The president went to the mountain.
He did.
Literally the mountain.
He did. Our history is replete with these mountain experiences, whether you're looking at it or it's looking at you. The truth of the matter is that every once in a while in our political history, there are moments when leaders of political parties, leaders of the country, leaders of sections of the country find that all isn't really well in their backyard. And there is need for them to mobilize, there's need for them to bring together, there's need for them to have a conversation that will guarantee that at least moving forward, there is less unrest. This happened in the most recent part in the time of one President Kibaki. He himself had moments when it was clear that his backyard was not at ease. People were not happy with certain things. And something similar did happen. It's just that his happened in two tranches. One, there was a meeting at State House where he addressed these matters. Then there was another meeting he had in State House, Nairobi, then State House Nakuru, where he addressed people from his Mount Kenya backyard. Okay? Now, there's something that Alice Wahome mentioned, which I thought was particularly interesting. When President Uhuru came into power and they had tried to have a similar meeting at the very beginning as people from Mount Kenya, there had been a complete blockage of that discussion because, as she puts it, the president didn't want the sectorial meetings of a section of the country meeting under his presidency. He was a president for everyone. Excellent statement, true. But whether you like it or not, the power that politicians have, especially when they're considered national political leaders, is because they have an unfettered support from people from their ethnic backgrounds or their region. That is usually the case. So whether you like it or not, at some point you're going to have to address these people. And you're going to have to address the issues that they seem to have. The other thing that Alex Wahome brought out to the core, the issue was one of feeling neglected or disrespected. It was a similar complaint that MPs in the Mount Kenya region had with President Kibaki. But the net result of the meetings that President Kibaki had was that not only was there peace, the movement forward was a lot easier. We are yet to see if this meeting that was held in Sagana will have similar results. But it was timely, it was appropriate, and it was necessary. The only difference was that in President Kibaki's time, all the leaders were invited. In President Uhuru's time, certain leaders from that particular region were not invited. So,
the other difference that stands out as you say that is that during Kibaki's time, there was no other leader who had gone to the backyard and tried to, coalesce with local MPs.
No,
in this particular case,
no such person.
In this particular case, there is a leader who basically has gone into the Mount Kenya backyard and formed some coalition with some members of parliament, and this is the deputy president.
Yes.
So here, there's a real and direct opposition in the backyard. In Kibaki, there was direct disquiet, but there was nobody who was emerging as a leader who was trying to bring them together.
There was no clear and present danger.
Yes. In this particular time, clear and present danger is there. And as you say that, CT, then how would you respond to people like, for example, Malindi MP Aisha Jumwa, who over the weekend has said, come on, you are the president of the country. When you go and start, having these small cocoons with your ethnic people, what message are you sending? And then when you hear words coming out of there is MCAs have been told, oh, this car grant that you guys wanted, it's okay. We can find ways of accommodating that. And it sounds like, we have not said nationally all MCAs. Obviously, this is going to be translated nationally all MCAs. But why have this conversation with these people? Why?
That is actually a dishonest conversation that the Mheshimiwa is having. It's a dishonest conversation because even as a member of parliament, it means you sought people's vote and you got voted in.
Yep.
And you will have areas that you consider your stronghold, people whom you even go back to and talk to. All politicians have this. The president, first and foremost, is a politician. If he wasn't a politician, he wouldn't have vied for the presidency. He's been a politician who's been in the political arena for quite some time. And he does come from central Kenya. It's just a fact. All politicians do this. If we're to take that argument to its logical conclusion, why then are we seeing the talk and the clamor for a formation of a coastal party? There are parties that have already been formed in the coast and they do exist. Why? Because politically it is understood that you gain a lot of mileage when you are strong as a unit. It is understood. It is not anything complicated. It's just that what we often don't face in this country is that we've had coalitions since independence. When KADU folded and joined KANU, it was a coalition. You can call it what you like. Then there was a forced coalition when we had a one-party state. Everybody was under KANU, forced. And then when we had multipartyism, you look at the times when people have come together. When Raila and his party joined KANU, it was a coalition. You may not think it was, but it was. Just our form of coalition. When you had the one coalition which we recognize as a coalition was in 2007. It was a coalition. Handshake. It's a coalition. When you want to bring communities together under one party, it's a coalition. That's how political systems work. So it would be a false premise to bring an argument and say, why is he doing it? I would argue he must do it.
I'd also argue that if he didn't do it, there would be those voices that would rise up and say, how then are you not trying to form blocks? We've heard in the past how blocks, or rather how communities then have been chastised because they've not been able to form a block, to be able to either vote as a block or to come together to ask for some kind of political leadership as a block. So it's either in this case, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Because if you don't do it, there are those who will rise up against you and say, come on, guys, why can't you even come together and make decisions as a block politically? If you didn't do it, they would ask the question. Now that you do it, there's a problem with actually coming out and saying forming blocks and now speaking to a particular group of people, because that would mean that you're playing the ethnic card.
Of course you must play the ethnic card. I mean, for heaven's sake, we've had talks of unity and unions within what we refer to as the larger Luhya community. Why? These are political statements being made about political situations with a political goal in mind. It's just an aspect of our political reality. Now, if you may not like it, but unfortunately, if you actually hope to gain any mileage, if you want to actually have any traction in any political field, this is how you must go about it.
Start in your backyard.
You absolutely have to. People who've gone through the chain, some have started MCA, MP, then senator, but you have to have a backyard that supports you.
All right. Now, when you go back to that backyard, because you've put out the argument very well that, I mean, this is your core support base.
Yes, it has to be.
You must keep going back to them and showing them, guys, we are together. What you send me to do, I'm doing. But then, let's now look at the kind of politics that then you play. You come in as the head of state and you say, come on, guys, look, I've brought in, I've revived the railway line. I have done this to coffee. Look at the markets that I'm building. Look at this and the other. Now, in fact, MCAs get these car grants. Does that come out as favoritism? Is that misusing your office?
If MCAs are going to get
more favors,
is it MCAs in the Mount Kenya region or MCAs throughout the country?
My argument is that this will translate to everyone in the country. Obviously, there's no way you can say there's MCA in this particular area or MCA because your MP did not come or you had not been invited to this meeting. You're not going to get a car. It's
and you see the MCA question to me is important, Eric, because the MCAs are much closer to the voting population than the MP or any other political leader. They're right there. They're at the ward level. Now, if you have consensus among this group of politicians, the MP can shout all he wants, or the senator can shout, or even the governor can shout as much as they like. The MCAs are a much stronger force. If you are talking about somebody who wants to do grassroots mobilization, they are a much, much stronger force than any of the other fellows that we're talking about. So, look, interpretations, especially of the political variety, will always be skewed in the direction of the person who's bringing out that particular argument. All right? The president of the country is a politician. When people talk about political discussions and political unions and coalitions, you have to bring something to the table. Now, what you bring is numbers. And those numbers are the people who come from your backyard. Anyone else wants to talk to you will not even utter a syllable to you if you do not have a support from your backyard. What are they talking to you about?
But don't we see that across board, even not just in Kenya, but across the world, is that who then is your support base?
Yes.
Who then is your support
What are
base?
you bringing to the table?
And that is what they look at in the very first instance. Whether it is as nuclear as your family, who is your support base? Very likely are they going to select somebody for political leadership who doesn't have a family that either she or he is taken care of or is supported by, loved by. It's very difficult for somebody to be selected if you don't have somebody at your back, right? And at the end of the day, that's where the litmus test lies. The people who or where he or she is from, if they don't support, then how on earth are we supposed to support?
Yes. They know you and they don't
so
support you.
Yeah. So
and then you want to ask who don't know you.
So you want to make sure that your backyard is sorted out. If that is sorted out, then you can surge around and say, okay, we have at home, behind me, my support base is sorted out. Then I can go forward. They will ask you what merits or what salt, what are you worth if where you're from does not support you?
Why don't we take this argument now to a local situation and ask ourselves, when you have, say, an MP with the Constituency Development Fund, are they going to have a meritocracy where they're going to ask people to apply for those jobs and they will choose the best person who probably doesn't even come from their region to give that job? The answer is no, they will not.
They'll pick people that they know.
And people who supported them and people whom they rely on. It's how political systems work. Yes, you'll have the qualifications, but there must be something that attaches you to them.
The added advantage here is
yes.
How well do I know
you? And what have you done for me and what can you do for me? Basic question. Those are the requirements. The other ones are for public show that, we followed this and the other and the other and the other. But the deciding factor is what we are saying.
Can we work together?
Yes.
Or not? We're going to advance this conversation then and even ask ourselves, remember what Dr. Mercy Korir, when she was here as a guest host, and she said, look, the president was speaking on vernacular radio stations. And it didn't sit well with her because she was saying, you are a national president, the president of the country. When you go and speak to a specific constituency in the specific language, then you've isolated everybody else. It's the same thing that we can translate here by saying, if you go to Sagana and you only invite members of this particular community and say, come, let's have a conversation. And we have not seen you doing the same thing by going to Nyanza, going to Coast, going to...
Because you didn't get a letter stating that there was unrest in Nyanza province about the BBI. You got a letter saying that the people of Central don't support BBI. And that is what you went to address.
9:15. Let's take a break. What do you think about this? 0719-012-600.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Living with HIV is not a death sentence. Thanks to advances in medicine, HIV is now a manageable illness, with patients able to lead normal lives and raise families as they achieve their goals and their dreams. Tune in to the Spice Drive with me, Monique, from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. every weekday as we talk about HIV, why it's important to know your status, ways to protect yourself, how you can get tested, and how testing positive should not stop you from living a normal life. Courtesy of the National AIDS Control Council, NACC.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to
Nairobi,
Spice.
we're looking at partly cloudy conditions. The sun is out for the most part, though. 19 degrees, going to highs of 27 and lows of 13. It's sunny in Nyeri at 15, going to highs of 24, lows of 7. Today is going to be quite chilly in the afternoon. Mostly sunny conditions in Nakuru at 17, highs of 30 and lows of 11. The low is 11 in Eldoret, 7 at the moment, going to highs of 26, highs of 32 in Kisumu, sunny at 23. It's mostly sunny in Kakamega at 22, going to highs of 33 and lows of 15. Partly sunny conditions in Mombasa, 26, highs of 32, highs of 31 in Malindi, mostly sunny at the moment at 24. Mostly sunny in Kampala at 21, highs of 28 and lows of 18. Too many Ks here. Dar es Salaam, light rain this morning. It's warm, however, at 28, highs of 32 and lows of 25. It still continues to rain in Johannesburg at 17 degrees, highs of 23 and lows of 12. Rain showers in Lagos at 24, highs of 33 and lows of 25. And we're looking at mostly sunny conditions in Kinshasa at 22. The high will be 33 and lows of 23.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
Having now is with regards to the president's journey to Mount Kenya over the weekend. He had several meetings at the Sagana State Lodge with several leaders from the Mount Kenya region. Remember, the Mount Kenya region is how many counties? We are talking about the county of Nairobi.
Where do you want to start?
We start with Nairobi,
Kiambu,
Murang'a, Nyeri, Kirinyaga, Embu, Meru, Laikipia, Nakuru, Nyandarua. All those basically where they...
And when you say Meru region, please. Because there's Meru County, there is...
Tharaka Nithi County.
And
right.
there is...
Which one? Which other one? There's another one.
Which one?
Sijui? Anyway, so the president was there and he invited the leaders from all these regions to come and have a conversation with him. And then we saw this has happened time and again. Among the leaders who were reacting to this, Malindi MP Aisha Jumo asking, so when the president goes there and does this, what does it mean? Is it isolationist? Is he only speaking to one region? And does that portend well for the country? C.T. Muga is arguing this morning, look, the man is a politician, has a political backyard, and this, he must appease his support base. He must speak to his support base. And that is how you maintain your legitimacy as a leader. If you don't do that, then your entire house of cards comes crumbling down. But as a president, once you've risen to the level of president, should you continue like openly doing this? And that's the question we're asking ourselves this morning. And that's what we'd like you to participate in. 0719-012-600 and social media as well. Is there anything wrong with the president going to his Mount Kenya backyard and holding meetings with political leaders from the region to have consensus on several matters that affect national issues? National, BBI is national. Economy is national. Job creation and opportunity is national.
What would be better if he held the meeting in secret?
If he didn't
If it
hold
was
the
a
meeting
secret
at all.
meeting, people would be up in arms by now. And then it leaked, and there was an SMS or something, a sort of picture taken of folks sitting around tables in this secret meeting.
There was a secret
Don't
meeting
you think
bringing
by
together
now things would have
7,000 people.
erupted in a manner that you would not believe? By now, people would have gone bonkers. What? There was a meeting at an undisclosed location deep in the forest.
They
of
wouldn't have called it a
Shivayo.
meeting.
I mean,
they would have called it oath taking.
Yes.
yeah, conspiracy to, it would have been
They
called
want
something
to cling
totally
on to
different.
power, these people. Joel in Kericho, good morning.
Salama kabisa, Eric. Habari asubuhi.
Salama kabisa, Joel. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, my friend.
Yes.
Sasa ile kitu iko nashukuru rais kuongea na watu wa Mount Kenya region, sioni shida. Lakini ile kitu iko ambayo labda kwa njia moja au nyingine haiko nifurahisha ni kwamba kati ya viongozi wote wenye walikuwa wamealikwa wakapewa nafasi kaongea, hakuna hata mmoja mwenye alisema raia wapewe copies. Unaona? Ya, hakuna mtu mwenye alisimama akasema sasa raia wapewe copies wasome.
Unajuaje Joel na huku hapo bwana?
Ama
ulikuwa na informant?
Hata wewe ulikuwa.
Sikuwa.
Hata wewe ulikuwa.
Sijui mimi.
Aya, asante. Sasa ile kitu iko wale viongozi ambao wako pale wapewe wangetisha kopi zema raia wapewe kopi ndio wasome. Hiyo ni ya muhimu.
Alright.
Na wale viongozi wakikuwa hapo wakuwe na maslahi ya raia mbele. Manake rais akisema wapewe MCS krani ya 2 million, hiyo ni kama wameonga MCS ndio wapitishe hiyo kitu. Sijafahamu.
Kweli. Thank you very much, Joel. Have a good day. 0719-012-600. What do you think? He says, well, it's okay for the president to go there, have this meeting, but what the leaders go there and do is what he has a problem with. These leaders, from all the reports, none of them is reporting to be saying that the leaders unanimously urge the president to make sure that everybody understands BBI, or that the leaders unanimously urge the president to make sure that everybody gets benefit of this BBI. It appears that they were discussing other things. But we were not in the meeting.
So we cannot say.
So it's a reporting.
Verify or deny.
Yes.
Look, I'm telling you, I think this entire meeting, these things that were called were reactions to things that would have come out a month or so ago. I don't think that we would have seen this happen if, again, a certain piece of communication did not come out in December. Because even that we've seen reports of things that were said. One of the things that he did say as president was reject this wheelbarrow story. Don't think that you get handouts in order to make it in life, right? He said, and this was in a meeting with the Mount Kenya youth leaders, he dismissed Dr. Ruto's youth empowerment drive, saying they needed jobs and should support the law change to safeguard their future. It said, don't wait for these handouts where you think you need a piece of machinery to be able to make it work for you. What we need is to strengthen the system so much so that everybody can get a job, everybody can get the training and the skills that they need to move forward. So he's saying that this hustler narrative should be dumped, according to the president.
Right.
He's saying that they don't know what really ails the youth, and that if people were genuinely concerned about them, they would know that they don't need or want wheelbarrows and handouts, but what they need is jobs. Why would you want us to go back to the old times where our forefathers used to push wheelbarrows for colonialists? We cannot allow that. That's one of the things that he said during this meeting. I think he used the opportunity also to answer some things that maybe had been bugging him for some time, right? This whole narrative that had jumped out over and over again. So even in his answer to the letter, which is for me, that's why they went there. Even in the answer to the letter, he used the opportunity to bring out some of these other issues and address them head on.
Let's talk about what else is happening.
Let's not look for handouts. Let's look for jobs.
Let's hear from Robert in Nairobi. Robert, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm fine.
So what do you make of the president's visit to Mount Kenya?
that was a waste of time.
Why?
Because how can you gather 7,000 people to represent 8 million people?
To what?
To represent 8 million people from Mount Kenya.
Because those are the
What alternative? What was the alternative to this?
Maybe the meeting could be going to each constituency. Because if you cannot be telling me you're going to handpick people from Mount Kenya, then you convey a meeting. You know? Hello?
Yeah, we
Then
can hear
say
you.
that you're collecting their opinion. Because me believe Uhuru said in his legacy that he'll create jobs. Then you call the same news and tell them that now you're going to create jobs. That's a lie. But even a person who is giving you a wheelbarrow, the wheelbarrows that people are saying that Ruto is giving, the people who is giving have asked for the wheelbarrows. Okay, like on the weekend, Asanjo was in Mombasa and he gave a lady an iPhone 6 Pro Max, iPhone 10 Pro Max. That is a wheelbarrow. She uses it to record her clips. So when saying that Ruto is when saying that Ruto is giving a wheelbarrow, the people who are being given wheelbarrow have asked for the wheelbarrow. So these people to stop lying to us that graduates are being given wheelbarrow. The people who are being given wheelbarrows are the people who are asking for the wheelbarrow.
Robert, what if I argued and followed your trajectory of discussion and said the reason why there was a meeting was that people of Central Kenya wanted to meet the president, so they called for the meeting, so he went for the meeting?
Those are meetings done by Akina Moraze, Akina Maina Kamanda, who claim to be knowing everything in Mount Kenya, yet they are political rejects.
Okay.
All right, Robert.
Because if Uhuru really wants to help people Mount Kenya, he should go per constituency. How many hospitals has Uhuru built in his 10 years presidency? What has he done in each constituency in Mount Kenya? But not telling us, you're convening, some political rejects are advising you, and they tell you to convene a meeting and tell you to pay the people who are coming for the meeting. And here the people who are paid who came for the meeting. When you pay people who go listen to a president, it should be voluntary.
Okay. Thank you very much, Robert.
Let me just finish by saying it is very sad that a president can reach to such a level, but the president does not know any problem because he has been born in settled, everything has been provided, he still lives there, so he has never started any business, he's never self-hungry. That's the saddest thing. That Mount Kenya people should realize now that the greatest enemy, I think, the president is not the same as other people.
Okay. Thank you, Robert. Zachary Nakuru, good morning.
Oh, good morning.
How are you?
I am very, very much happy and good having just come out of the weekend.
Sounds like the check went through, eh?
It did. But its division is quite contentious when you put Waithira in the equation, okay?
Okay.
And I also enjoyed the perks that come with the weekend, yeah? Now, let me somehow digress and recall about Mr. Sosioni, if you allow me. And today, for the first time, I'm agreeing with Mr. Sosioni. And the idea of saying that anyone who participates in acts of arson is a criminal, okay?
Yep.
And the government has got its ways and means of dealing with dealing ruthlessly with such characters, okay? The question that I pose to everyone in Kenya is, where do the kids, the students who are burning dormitories and classrooms and libraries come from? They come from home. What has been their parenting? That is what I wanted to actually recall about Mr. Sosioni, okay? And I agree with what he said, that teachers should not, and teachers are not they are not law enforcers, okay? Therefore, they should not be put into doing the things they were not trained for, and they are not meant to be.
Zachary, now, even as you continue, please allow me to pause. You send your child or your children to school.
Okay.
Schools have rules.
Okay.
Who do you expect is going to enforce these rules if it isn't the teachers?
Okay, it is the teachers, but let me answer your question by posing your question, Mwalimandro, yeah?
Please, go ahead.
Suppose your daughter or your son came from school A and they have been expelled. The reason why they have been expelled is that they have burnt a dormitory. or they have burnt down their school, yeah? What would be your reaction? Okay, the person has come. You as a parent or a guardian, how are you going to deal with? What is the first question that you are going to pose to that student, okay? To your kid, okay? Are you going to sit and tell her that, okay, now you see that drawer, that is where we put our jam, as you remember. That is where we put our salad. That is where we put our bacon. Now sit down, relax and eat. And the world is going to call. Is that how you're going to deal with him or her?
Mwalimu?
No, most definitely not.
Okay. Now, let me tell you this, Mwalimu. That person who is burning down a school has come from a guardian, a home. Okay? And before that person qualified to be taken to school, he was examined and seen that this person is fit. He follows orders. You know, somebody told me that the reason why we do exams is not to show that our brain capacity, is it? It shows that we are a teachable. And I know you know that, is it? Who is this person who is coming from a certain home that they burn down things where they get ugly? Okay? Is that the way that we solve things? No,
Let me answer your question by telling you this is a person who comes from a country where in the public domain they see people throwing stones and they see people burning cars and they see and they hear politicians lying. So even if in their own home the parents don't lie and they don't see this, but they see it elsewhere, it is available for them to see.
Now I simply answer you by telling you, in the public domain we need to make ourselves role models. Okay? Like now the debate I'm about to contribute about our Modo Anyoba there, okay? He has already said, and he is given by the part to say that do not converge when you are many because of the situation that you are in of COVID-19, is it? Are we following that? Are you doing exactly opposite of what you are supposed to enforce? Do you see, Marim?
So you think he's going against his own dictates?
Definitely. We have to make, me as Baba Izera, okay? I have to make myself a role model, such that if there is a kid who is growing next to me, he would want to wish that, I just wish that I become like Baba Izera. I am courteous, I am respectful, you know?
Yes.
When I'm done good things, I'm able to say thank you. Okay? But this generation of Sijui Kababa, Kamami, you know, it's a generation that started way back in the late 90s or the early 90s, yeah? It is now becoming of age, and we can see the monsters that you have brought up.
Asante
Eric,
Zakari. Yeah.
Okay, now let me just come quickly to our Modo Anyoba there, is it?
Aren't you there already? What do you make of the meeting?
Yeah, I was not there. Let me tell you this, huh?
Yes.
I do not see anything that much bad about it. You know, first of all, Mr. Uhuru has a family. He has a family to identify with, is it? The Kenyatta family, is it? He also has a tribe. He's a Kikuyu. He comes from Mount Kenya, is it? He has also a country. He's a Kenyan. So for him, yeah, like me when I'm like now trying to convince Kina Izira that we should keep the situation guy something, yeah, because they do good work. And Izira is rejecting. I do not use the Rumumba English to convince her, okay? I will use the language that she understands, the Kikuyu language, okay? And when Uhuru now calls us and he talks to us in our language, you know, we feel him, we owe him, yeah?
Okay.
I mean, we own him, yeah? And he is able to plead. And let me tell you one secret about our, although I don't know whether others are going to come to my throat, is it? We have a saying that a good house brings their things together in a meeting and they talk one language, okay? And that is why you find that when we go to vote, you may be surprised. They are saying that BBI has no following. When it comes to voting, Mr. Eric,
Mount Kenya
you
will
are going
give
to be very much surprised to hear that 199% voted for BBI in Mount Kenya, okay?
Tutaona.
Because they are following their
Thank you,
book.
Zachary.
And you guys have a nice day, guys.
You too.
Thank you, Zachary.
25 to 10. Let's take a break now and see what's happening on the roads, and then we pick your call. 0719 012 600.
There are so many people peddling what is false and that it bears remarkable resemblance to what is true.
Politicians have their agenda, and their agenda is to use every opportunity to sell that agenda and to loot this nation.
I have seen major strides that are done in this country when we talk to each other as against talking at each other.
We start getting back into the tribal cocoons which were put to us by the colonial powers. You know, they gave us physical freedom but not mental freedom. We're still mentally colonized today into these cocoons of tribe.
Now, if you live in an area where it's difficult to find a dog,
He's a goat. I kid you not.
In which part of this country is it difficult to find a dog? So that you resort. Nafandi hii umbo yako iko na
hii ni umba special.
This is the Situation Room.
Okay, looks
the
like the morning's
only
getting
way
worse
to
and
start.
worse. Multiple accidents on Raptor Road this morning. Multiple car accident on Raptor Road this morning, and folks still figuring out what that is, and it's spilling over onto parts of Waiaki Way. Now, the traffic is spilling over onto Waiaki Way because there's a big hold up there. So if you're heading in that direction, you might want to use an alternate route until that is being sorted out, right? So it's still happening on Langata Road. It's very slow coming to the roundabout at Timor. Bagathi Way also equally as slow. Uhuru Highway, forget it. I mean, trying to get into the city, very slow right now. Use an alternate route. That one, we're just going to go ahead and say yes. If you're way ahead and you're thinking of using Uhuru Highway, use the bypass. You get into the CBD much quicker than what we're seeing right now. Mombasa Road clogged up well past Bellevue now, and as further construction continues on the expressway, it slows traffic down quite some. All right, coming off Kiambu Road is a little bit easier than it was before. The lanes have reduced now to 4, as they were 5 before. More traffic spilling over onto Thika Road. Talk to us, Spice of MKE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Spice and everything nice. All right.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
The phone line 0719 012 600. Guess who's on the line from Wakulima Market in Nakuru? Karaoke.
Yes, how are you?
Happy New Year.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you? And you?
I am very
What
fine.
about? Okay, thank you. The question I want to ask is this.
Yes.
I remember I've heard you guys saying Mr. President has called energy. That gathering in Ghana, right? That's what you have said. I've heard you say. Everybody is praising you. But remember, I've heard Raila Odinga.
Karaoke, I think
Yes?
just move to a quieter place, then we can hear you. There's somebody else who's also picking a call next to you.
Yeah. Is it okay now?
Yes.
Yes, better.
I'm asking. I'm just saying.
Mm.
This was the day I heard him saying that he's going to meet all the ODM representatives, right?
Yep.
And I think when he's going to meet with them, he's not meeting them just because they happen to come from South Nyanza or Luos or something like that. He's calling them just because they represent as under the ODM umbrella from every part of this country.
Okay.
Unlike what the president did this other day at Ghana. And I remember I have my friends who are there. And I heard the city saying that there was no handout. But even my friends, even before they left,
City didn't talk about
Nakuru,
handouts, but
that's what city said. I heard him saying so. That,
I didn't, Karaoke. I apologize if
friend-
what I said sounded like that, but I did not mention handouts at all.
Do you know how many Kenyans heard you? Not
Okay.
even Karaoke
So,
alone.
Karaoke, are you
So
saying
what
there were
I'm saying
handouts?
is this. Of course, my friends who left here told me even the amount of money they're going to get from there. Even
what-
there, I can even I even tell you how
What's wrong
much
with that?
money was given. I was just questioning, opposing what City said.
Is there anything wrong with that, with the handout?
Of course, a very great wrong, a very grave one, in fact.
Yeah.
Because he is not supposed to give anything. If at all, he thinks he is popular. And on the other hand, 9 years down the line, is this the only time he has decided to come to Central Province? Just to do what? That's a waste of time. Anyway, let's wait and see.
Okay.
That's what I can tell you.
Thank you, Karaoke.
That's what I can tell you. Thank you.
Asante sana. Mheshimiwa Grace.
Yay.
Happy New Year, Grace.
Happy New Year to you all.
Habari ya masiku.
Salama zaidi bwana, na nyinyi?
Tuko salama.
You've been hiding.
You've
been hiding.
No, I was waiting for you to come and have tea with me.
Oh, really? That's an open invitation.
I wanted to see the lead period that will take you to come to say where is Grace. Anyway, with a light touch.
Good to have you. Good to have you on air, Grace.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on this Mount Kenya Sagana meetings.
Right. Yeah.
According to me, these are politicians. And they are supporters, whatever. Those are the people who help them. I think they are just being strategic, and they are minding their best. These are the rest of us in the country. Instead of pointing fingers and saying it is a tribal something, we better also be strategic and invite the president if we want him to come and listen to our issues.
Okay. So you should come together and say, for example, this region, the coast, when the president was at the coast the other time, he actually met leadership of the coast region.
Yeah.
So
because what I've observed for a long time, people wait for others to do things and then they start pointing and poking fingers. Instead of them, thinking and saying, what can I learn from this? How can I improve myself? And how do I even bring in the president to come and listen to our issues on our region? Why don't you organize those meetings and invite him? I'm sure you'll come.
So you think this is an opportunity, Mheshimiwa, to say this has turned out the way it has. It's an opportunity for other regions to say, look, since you went there, come here and hear from us as well. You think it would work?
Be strategic. Be strategic and talk about your issues also. And I'm sure you will not refuse to go there and listen to whoever and whatever they want to say.
That's true.
For this other one, I just imagine they are just being strategic and doing their thing. Yeah.
Asante sana. Before we let you go, you are a leader from Baringo County. A lot of things have been happening in Baringo. There's a swelling of the lakes. Now there is the violence in Kapedo. What do you make of all this?
I think what I learned when from my observation,
Yes.
Like the cattle rustling issue, it should not be a one-off thing that we wait for the reaction to come from the ground. Then we react and go and make a lot of noise. And once things are cooled off, you disappear.
Yeah.
It is something that needs continuous monitoring and continuous engagement with those communities. So long as we keep reacting to whatever they do all the time, they start, we go, we make noise, we disappear, they wait, they calculate, they analyze, they attack, we go. So I think we need to break that and be more engaging. I like what the Bishop of Nakuru was doing. Going to talk to those people and telling them the solution is we even try to bring schools close by, bridge the word to them and just be there all the time. Be in there.
Be present.
Be present and try to kind of align their mindset to other things apart from cattle rustling.
Okay. Asante sana.
And the other one for the water,
yes,
that is a natural phenomenon. People need to study and tell us what to do. Yeah.
But has there been adequate response to this crisis, especially for those affected?
I don't think so. It has never been enough all the time. It's a reactive thing, and I don't like the way we just react. We better learn and engage them for longer.
That's very true. Thank you very much, Mheshimiwa Grace Kiptui.
See you. I'll now be. I've come back.
Karibu sana.
Next
Aya,
up, you'll be
asanteni.
sitting here with us for one of these days. In one of these days.
I will come. All
Asante.
right.
Asante sana.
Aya.
0719-012-600. We're having a conversation about the meeting. Sagana 3 has been billed. The meeting between the president and leadership from Mount Kenya. So he met with MCAs, met with members of parliament, both the National Assembly and the Senate, met with political leaders from the grassroots, which included now local community leaders who have a say in politics, and also religious leaders. Yesterday, there was a meeting with the youth leaders, about 5,000 of them from the region. All these representing various cadres of the society to have conversations on what really the government is doing. And basically, the bottom line is to drum up support for the BBI and to say what BBI is all about and how it will benefit the people.
That's what it was.
So when the president goes and says, for example, you see, and he comes out and says he was firmly and fully behind, which is not a secret. He came out openly to say that the formula, the third basis formula for revenue sharing, which had a lot of issues, and he was saying, look, when we come and we put in this formula and say, let's now look at how else we can divide the money so that the people can benefit. And this was going to have a direct benefit on we as a people. What's wrong with that? Does it come out to say that the president was actually sitting there and thinking, how am I going to have a formula that benefits the
People of Central.
people of Mount Kenya? And then everybody else, if the other people now benefit now, like the other counties that end up benefiting, like in North, that's okay. Does it expose the complaints that are coming from the counties that felt that they were going to lose the money and why they were feeling this way? And they were saying this is a ploy to take money from us and give it to this Mount Kenya region. And then the president comes and says, look, I wanted this formula to benefit Mount Kenya region. Does it then go back and say,
Does it buffer the argument?
But-
Does it buffer the argument?
But you know, that argument, every time it has a political twist, it turns our attention away from the actual manner in which this entire thing was configured. The Commission on Revenue Allocation is people with very professional people who have painstakingly taken time to actually figure these things out. Believe me, there was a balancing act that they've had to do all this time. Population versus square area in which people work in, development of the area versus... all these permeations were considered. And if you honestly look at the allocation of funds from the inception of devolution, believe me, money was being allocated. That's why when we had this discussion, I asked, why don't we also ask what has been done with the money that has been given so far?
So far, the amount of money that has gone to
Because
these counties.
the discussion seems to emanate from the fact that nothing has happened because we haven't been given money. Not true. Not true. Monies have been seen in all the regions of this country which previously had not seen. Some of the problems that were there are also being discussed as though they're a continuous problem. Yet, had the money that had been given from the time been put to good use, those problems would have ceased to be the problems that they are.
Indeed.
The discussions would be other discussions.
Let's go back to the phone lines. John in Nairobi, good morning.
Morning, how are you?
Good.
We're fine.
Now, in 2010, when we brought in the new constitution and we brought in the counties, the idea, one of the main thing was to remove this thing we have about the presidency.
Yep.
But I think we have failed. Because up to now, all our conversations are about the president. And now, just to bring it now to the BBI, you look at the way BBI is structured, I think it's just going to make it even worse. Instead of us now be talking about our counties, our governors, we are still talking about the presidency. And that worries me. It really worries me that we are talking about the presidency. Everybody here is calling, he said, those people called the president, we should call the president in our region. Is that the way we should be doing in 2021?
We should be having conversations with the governors in the region.
Exactly.
Okay.
That we are still talking about the president should come to our area, we tell him our problems. Is that the way we should be doing in this day and age? I think there's something wrong the way we are structuring our our politics, and our even the constitution, because it appears it did not cure that problem.
Okay.
And if I look at the BBI, it's going to make it even worse.
Adds more problems.
How exactly
Yes,
is the
but
BBI
I'm
going to
not-
make it worse, John? I'm actually asking so that I can understand.
Because the president that is who's being created by the BBI is a president who's going to be more powerful than this president. It's going to be more attractive to be a president
How
in the
so?
BBI.
How?
The president is going to be appointing a prime minister.
Mm-hmm.
The president is going to be appointing two deputy prime ministers.
Mm-hmm.
That president is going to be more attractive than the current president.
Mm-hmm.
It is going to be more. Everybody will want to be a president compared to even now.
Okay.
It,
Good point.
It might not be. It might not be in the BBI letters.
It's in the
but
spirit.
The perception, yes, and the spirit. That is what is creating.
But John, remember also that with all these powers, we will still have a parliamentary system.
What
one?
mean? Even now, we still have a parliamentary system, so to speak.
Purely presidential.
No,
Nothing
it
parliamentary.
will, not be, it will not be purely presidential, because if you have a prime minister who is head of government, that is a parliamentary system.
Okay.
From the president's party.
That is a presidential system. The president is one who's appointing this guy. The president.
Yes.
President is one who's
So
running
that's
the government. The head of
Yes.
government is not coming from parliament.
Yes.
The prime
coming
minister
from
is
the
just a
pres-
prefect.
Exactly. So that's my point. Actually, we are making this presidency more attractive. People are going to fight more to be presidents in this country than even before.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Asante sana. Jeff in Kwale, good morning.
Morning, sir. How are you?
Very well.
I've been following the conversation. I have 2 points I wanted to bring out.
Okay.
When the president met with his people in Mount Kenya, it was, he had an obligation as probably one of their leaders to meet, probably discuss their things. The 3%, the 15% that they were intending to increase to 35%, if you look at the narrative he gave, it somehow makes sense, because he says this. I'm a board member in one of the schools around here, and I see the kind of bursaries that we get from the MCAs and the MPs.
Yeah.
Get up to around 40,000 per kid.
Yeah.
And when in their place we are getting a maximum of 3,000 per kid, I mean, it makes sense. Let me give an example also of a place like, for example, Kilifi, where they are getting around 11 billion from the national government per year, compared to a place like Kirinyaga, where they only get, I think, 5 billion per year. And when you look at the population of the two places, it's like heaven and earth. So I think they have some point. Both camps have a point.
Okay.
But I think this is something that needs to be approached soberly.
From a sober perspective.
It is not.
Let's engage on that a little bit.
Yes.
So he used the argument that, we're increasing the number of members of parliament, and that's
Yes.
where the contention is. Why are you increasing the number of members of parliament? And he says, if you're going to have, for example, this particular constituency being split into two, the same population now having two MPs, each of those MPs having 100 million shilling CDF, so all you people now have 200 million shilling CDF, is that not beneficial? But is the price of having this extra MP commensurate with the benefit?
I think that one now would vary from area to area, depending on the kind of people you're going to bring aboard. Because most of the MPs that I interact with, or most of the politicians I interact with, they don't go there to help people. Actually, they go there to eat and help their cronies and their relatives and their friends and their girlfriends.
Yeah.
So when you have such a mindset, then when you increase the number of MPs, for example, a place like Georgia that has 120,000 registered number of voters, when you increase to 10 MPs, for example, and give them 100,000 each, translating to around 1 million or a billion, it still won't change if the person doesn't have a different mindset.
Okay.
So I think by and large, it's going to lay largely on the kind of people the people are going to choose. And now that brings me to the second point. The second point is straightforward. There are people who feel like probably the VP has been isolated, and there are some people from Mount Kenya who have been very good, close to him, and doing campaigns for him.
Yep.
Which is good, because everybody has a democratic right.
Mm-hmm.
But there is one thing I'm going to put across. If, for example, we are going to elect that group, for example, and you don't elect them with one vote more than what you gave Uhuru, it will still look like a betrayal from where I sit. What I mean is you have 40 MPs, for example, who are going to be on UDF, and you have 39 from the Jubilee side. Sorry, the other way around. 40, for example, from Jubilee and 39 from UDF. They will not say that we got this number of MPs. They will say you still betrayed us.
You still betrayed us. You didn't give us
you didn't give us the 100% you expected.
Okay.
Yes. So it's a very tricky situation on Central or the Mount Kenya region people, because it doesn't matter how much you give, it might not be good enough.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff.
That is a tricky situation, yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good day in Kwale.
You too.
All right. So the conversation is varied as the opinion is varied as there are people, right? What the president did, and then now the outcome of that, what is said there about what was said, and the perceptions coming out of it. But that's the nature of politics.
Absolutely. It's all about perception. And unfortunately, you cannot control perception either. Is that regardless of what side you're on, you're going to see this as a certain thing. Whether you're the one who's saying, well, I need to hear from him because I put him in this position by virtue of my vote, hoping that he would do certain things. He comes to visit you, you're going to perceive it in a certain way. Others who may not be from that area, seeing him going there, you will also perceive it in a certain way. So it really... It doesn't matter what side you're on.
The
only person who is going to be able to tell you the reasons exactly why, in truth and honesty, why he did it is him. And unless you get that person or audience with him to find out the reason why, we will all hear and we will debate about our perceptions. But the way in which it appears to the country is equally as important, because then that will shape the discussions and the discourse going into the future.
You know,
and how decisions are made.
You know, if one were to look at this whole situation honestly, at what point do you ever not see leaders going back to their backyards to meet with their people and to talk with them? When don't you ever see it?
What is the first thing they do when they get elected into a position?
Homecoming.
There you go. Why?
Homecoming party.
Why? There's going to pay some kind of allegiance to the people that it is assumed put them in that position. Why? Because they had the first backing or the first support from that area. Do they go around the country thanking the whole country?
No.
No. They go home. You got to think about it that way.
Okay.
But also there is the perspective. For purposes of relevance, you must always find an opportunity to gainsay a situation, or to have something that you want to bring as a query to a situation. Otherwise, you would not be a very effective politician. And there is nothing that works. It's a hypocritical notion, but it works well.
You've got a question.
Yes, because most people, unless you're within towns, you are voted in by a tribal group, your tribe. And yet, when someone else is in a similar situation, it is something that you feel you should criticize.
They're tribal.
Yes.
Of course. Coming to the end of the show, and we thank you very much for tuning in today. Join us again tomorrow. But before we do that, let's hear about today's proverb.
Don't think there are no crocodiles just because the water is calm. Mm-hmm.
Who are you preaching to today?
Well, actually, this one isn't even a sermon. This one is a notice of a sermon. It's coming. In this sense, okay? Things are not always what you think they are or seem to be. Simply put.
And if things are quiet, that doesn't mean that everything is going to be peaceful.
And conversely, if things are noisy, it also doesn't mean that they are what you think they are. Yes.
That noise may just be some smoke screen.
It may be a smoke screen.
Yeah.
People are noisy when they're happy. They're also noisy when they're sad.
And they're noisy when they're quiet.
Yes.